Yo legends! Welcome to Fanfiction Legend. Grab your headphones, because today's story is about to hit different. Disclaimer. I do not claim ownership of this story. All rights belong to the original creators. The Talent of Konoha. Page 41. The expression didn't change at all. Saitama found that when the kunai was inserted into the enemy's body, when some warm liquid flowed out along his kunai's twisting, when the enemy stopped struggling, he didn't have any other thoughts think. In such a chaotic world, Saitama has no choice. It is impossible for him to let himself be caught without a fight, let others hold his head, and hack and kill at will. Therefore, Saitama chose such a path to be his own strongman. Here, it started to rain, the wind also began to howl, blowing the leaves of the forest. The killing also officially started, and the man under Saitama's feet was only the first one. This man was just a strong, ordinary human being, and Saitama didn't have much trouble killing him. Starting to look for the lone enemy again, Saitama slowly approached the camp. Not long after, Saitama found two people sitting around eating together, a pile of flames burning beside them. They didn't feel the danger approaching at all, and they were still happily eating the meat in their hands. That was the chicken they took by the way after burning, killing and looting in a nearby village in the morning. The rain floating in the sky did not affect their interest in eating and drinking at all. Saitama leaned over and slowly approached the two on the ground. The small body was deliberately concealed, but it didn't attract the attention of the two people, not to mention that the day was gloomy with no sunlight, like a dark night. Bah! When he was 2 meters away, Saitama put his palm on the ground and jumped up. He held kunai in his left hand, and grabbed the enemy sitting on the right with his right hand. Before he could react, he sent kunai into the throat of the enemy on the left. The enemy's expression stayed on the joy of the last second, and there was still a big lump of flesh in his mouth, and blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. And the enemy who was embraced by Saitama didn't seem to understand the current situation. He thought it was his companion who was holding him, but when he turned his head, he found that the companion on his left was already lying in a pool of blood. There are enemies, ho, ho! The enemy reacted instantly and wanted to call out to others, but before he finished calling, Saitama pulled kunai from the left side and inserted it into the enemy's throat again. But the enemy's early warning also achieved results, and there were movements in several nearby tents. What's the situation? A big man came running from the nearest place, nearly 2 meters tall, holding a big knife. He couldn't believe it when he saw the two companions lying in the blood, and the little dwarf Saitama squatting aside. Chiyu knew that there was no need to hide anything, so he stood up and held kunai upside down, with blood still dripping from it. Damn brat! The man didn't say much, raised his big knife, and rushed over in 3 steps. Swing the knife and slash down vigorously. Oh! A knife slashed at the place where Saitama had just stood, leaving a trace, and Chiyu had already jumped away from there in 1 step. This is another ordinary person, only stronger, but in front of the ninja Saitama, his strength is not enough at all. Ding! Kunai scratched the enemy's giant sword, and Chiyu kicked out again, kicking the man flying out heavily. The two people who were completely unequal in size immediately decided the winner. Before the big man stood up again, a kunai flew over and inserted it into his throat. The man clutched his wound, struggled a few times, and then stopped all his movements, completely out of breath. For Chiyu counted silently in his heart. The movement here has already alarmed the surrounding area, and more people began to gather around. What? Suddenly, there was a sound from the other side of the camp. Saitama knew that it was Shursui who also started to move, and the movements of his hands also accelerated. Get rid of these ordinary people as soon as possible, so that you can deal with ninjas in this group of people well. Looking at the 3 gangsters who surrounded him again, they were all tall and big, with fierce expressions. Chiyu didn't have a trace of fear. With the experience of the previous few times, it seemed very easy to face it again. Saitama drew a dagger from behind. Kunai no longer had an advantage in a frontal battle, and the enemies on the opposite side were all holding exaggerated weapons. Looking at the few people not far away, Saitama gripped the knife even tighter. Hey, brat, who are you? Seeing the corpse on the ground, the few people who came at this time did not act rashly, and the leader asked. Ha ha! When Saitama and the others left the village this time, they tacitly put away Konoha's forehead protector and did not wear it on their bodies. "You can treat me as your judge," Saitama said slowly without changing his expression. "What, brat, you're not ashamed to speak out?" The man knew that he couldn't find out why, and his tone became more ferocious. "He has only one person, we have 3 here, go. Kill him to avenge the dead brothers." Page 42. After speaking, he took the weapon and took the lead to rush towards Saitama, swung his right arm in a circle, and slashed with a knife. The rest of them also followed behind, yelling some vulgar words in their mouths, and the weapons in their hands were slashed entirely by strength, without any skill at all. Chiyu kicked his feet, and his whole body shot out like an arrow off the string. Shwa! Ba! Shuttle among several people, Saitama's sword kept slashing, leaving eternal wounds on several bodies. Stopping again, Saitama appeared behind these people. Plop! X3. Chiyu didn't hesitate to continue to the place where the cry came from before. Shisui was over there, he needed to go there and join him. Maintaining enough vigilance, Saitama never relaxed for a moment, but he knew that there were ninjas hidden here. Along the way, before he found Shisui, Saitama found a few enemies who had suffered knife wounds on their limbs but were unable to move and were lying on the ground crying. In the spirit of humanitarianism, he enthusiastically stepped forward to make a few stab wounds and sent them to the hospital. "Go where you need to go. There are 3 people here, plus the 7 people that Saitama solved. If there is no accident, there will be only 1 person left." Ding! Shisui fought with a figure who was only about 1.5 meters long. This person was dressed in a black tight suit, which looked like a ninja in Saitama's memory. When they arrived at the place where the battle was fought, Saitama was not in a hurry to join the battlefield, but hid aside and watched silently. Anyway, Shisui was still above at this time, suppressing the ninja terribly. The figure kept changing its position with the surrounding shadows, and Saitama was already getting closer to the center of the battlefield. Shoo! Shishui's extremely fast knife left a gash on the black-clothed ninja's body, and blood flowed down continuously. The black-clothed ninja became anxious at once, and hurriedly took a few steps back to increase the distance between him and Shisui, but shortened the distance between him and Chiyu, who was hiding behind a tree behind him. "Sanfei, if I don't come out, I will die. Come out and deal with this guy." The black-clothed ninja covered the wound with one hand, yelling loudly. "Idiot!" A voice came, and a figure appeared not far from Jishui's right hand. Shisui seems to have known about the existence of this ninja for a long time, and the sudden appearance of this ninja named Sanfei did not make him confused. "Let's work together to kill this guy, and then go and get rid of the guy on the other side." The 3 doors that appeared spoke in a deep voice, and the voice that suddenly disappeared on the other side made him feel a little bit bad. "Well, then hurry up." The black-clothed ninja also agreed, and stopped caring about the wound, gritted his teeth and continued to hold the weapon tightly, ready to fight. "Bah! Isn't it good to say in front of me that you want to kill me?" Saitama stirred the dagger vigorously a few times, stood behind the ninja in black, supported his waist, and said softly, "Ho, ho!" Unable to say a word, the black-clothed ninja felt that the power in his body was constantly draining. "What?" The ninja named Sanfei was startled. Saitama suddenly exploded when the ninja in black was slack in speaking, and instantly dealt with the injured ninja. Before, both ninjas focused on Shisui, who was aside, which gave Saitama a chance. When Sanfei heard the sound, he subconsciously shifted his attention to the ninja in black. Seeing his companion who had been dealt with, he hurriedly turned his attention back to Shisui, and suddenly found that Shisui moved again at some point. He changed his position and surrounded the kid who had just appeared. "Oomph, I didn't expect you to have a companion." Sanfei's words were obviously addressed to Shisui, and he regretted not showing up earlier, and together with the ninja in black, dealt with Shisui first. Now the situation is reversed, which is not good for him. Licking his lips, Sanfei knew that it was time for his life and death. But there were only 2 brats on the opposite side, and he still had the confidence to run away or fight back. With a sound of schwa, Sanfei also pulled out his weapon from behind, a huge sword with a strange shape, somewhat similar to a beheading sword. "Don't underestimate me." Sanfei's tone was a little arrogant. Before he could continue talking, both Saitama and Shursui raised their knives. Dang dang dang. A few steps turned into one step, and the two prepared to make a quick decision and cooperate to kill this guy named Sanfei. Ding! Ding! The two attacked, one from the left and the other from the right. The dagger and Sanfei's weapon collided with each other, making a metallic sound. Sanfei also had some strength. Although he was suppressed for a while and had no strength to fight back, he was never attacked by any of the two, and they all blocked it with the knife. Boom! Sanfei grabbed a gap where Jishui swung his knife and started to fight back, kicking out with lightning speed. With one kick, Jishui was kicked into the air, his body flipped around on the ground a few times, and finally he hit a big tree before stopping. Ha ha! Page 43. Sanfei let out a few meaningless taunts, and continued to swing the knife and chop with katana. Without Shursui's joint attack, he began to suppress Saitama with the advantage of his weapon. I saw him slashing Chiyu from left to right, and Chiyu was also constantly backed away by his mindless and powerful attacks. While slashing, Sanfei kept spitting out fragrance, mocking Saitama, and Jishui on the other side has not recovered from that kick. At this moment, a kick kicked Santo on the left waist, and Saitama turned around, and his left hand grabbed his right hand holding the weapon at the moment Santo was kicked. Shoo! Cut it down with a knife, and blood splattered everywhere. Ah! Sanfei cried out in pain. If he hadn't let go of the knife in time, clasped Chiyu's hand with his backhand, and used his strength to turn it, I don't know if this knife would cut off his head. Quickly opened the distance, and Sanfei also dodged the knife that Jishui rushed over and slashed, touching the wound on her chest. Sanfei felt annoyed. The knife left a wound of about 10 centimeters, the incision was deep, the flesh had been turned out along with the wound, and the blood naturally flowed non-stop. Standing side by side with Katama, Shursui looked at Santo's tragic situation, and a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Saitama never disappoints. Let's go together, solve it and go back. Chiyu looked at the knife in his hand. This guy named Sanfei still has some strength, and he is also very capable of adapting to changes. He made a show of weakness before, making Sanfei think that he could kill himself, and then set up a combo to take away the head unexpectedly. Sanfei was a little quick-witted in the end, and survived a little injury, but this was only temporary. Well, I think so too. I've been out for so long, and it's time to go back. Shoo! The two rushed straight over like this. After all, Sanfei had no weapons. Covering the wound, Sanfei couldn't stop moving around, so that neither of the attacks of the two of them had achieved the real effect, but it also left a lot of wounds on his body, some deep and some shallow. Chapter 15 Killing. Sanfei began to panic. The continuous wounds made him understand his situation, and the blood continuously flowing from his chest made him understand the preciousness of life. I can give you whatever you want, please spare my life. At this time, he was no longer arrogant. After all, he only had one life. Saitama and the two stopped their attack and looked at each other. A funny expression appeared on their faces. Sanfei thought that Chiyu and the others were tempted, and then said, I still have a lot of savings over the years. If you let me go, I will give you everything. Do you think it will work? Okay. Saitama smiled, but the knife in his hand moved again. The loss of blood made Sanfei feel weak. The corners of his mouth began to turn white, his eyes swelled up and down, and his brain began to feel dizzy. In this way, his movements naturally slowed down. Bah! Dazed for a moment, a knife pierced his chest, and the tip of the knife appeared on his back. Isn't everything ours after you are solved? The white knife goes in and the red knife comes out. Sanfei's eyes widened. He looked at the knife on his chest in disbelief. Shoo! Chiyu drew out the knife and pushed open the 3 doors. Killing this person did not affect his state of mind in the slightest. Sanfei, who fell on the ground, did not die immediately. The corners of his mouth twitched unconsciously, and his eyes gradually became lax. Shursui walked to Katama's side, looked at the enemy who was about to turn into a corpse on the ground, and pursed his lips. This mission is over, Shursui. Saitama's tone was flat, and the corpse beside him did not affect him. Yes, I don't know where Sin and Lin have gone. As soon as the words fell, 2 figures suddenly appeared on the branches beside him. Saitama shook the knife in his hand violently and put on a defensive posture, while Shursui also looked vigilant. They will not forget the fact that there were only 11 people in the previous camp according to their observation, but there are 12 dead bodies lying here. Maybe there are hidden people? Oh, it's us. Uchiha Sen's voice came. After confirming that it was Uchiha Mori and the other two, Shisui and Saitama naturally lowered their vigilance. Well, it's very skillful to perform such a task for the first time. Uchiha Mori stroked the handle with one hand, staring at Saitama with an interested expression on his face. Uchiha Lin on the side didn't say anything, and went straight to Santo, who was lying on the ground and had no breath. Lin reached into Sanfei's pocket and groped for a while, and found a scroll after a while. After confirming again and again, he nodded towards Uchiha Sen. Uchiha Mori also showed a smile when he saw this. They also had a mission when they came out this time. Okay, this mission is over. With a flat tone, Uchiha Mori turned around and was about to leave. Uchiha Lin also followed. Go to the village in the east to fix up, and we will go back tomorrow. With one more sentence, the Uchiha forest duo drifted away. This battle is actually not a big burden on Saitama, and he is facing ordinary people, and the last two ninjas are not strong. Some blood was also spattered on his body, and Saitama's current appearance is indeed not very decent. Page 44. Following the leaving figure, Saitama just wanted to find a place to rest now. It was the first time to engage in such a life-and-death battle, and I was still physically and mentally exhausted. Will it be hard to kill? When this problem becomes a seed and takes root deep in a person's heart, it will make it easy for people to lose the right direction. A fresh life was taken away by his own hands, warm liquid was splashed on his hands, and resentful eyes just stared at him for such a long time. How many people would really be afraid of it? Life is very precious, but it does not belong to others. Only your own life is the most precious and most cherished. When killing becomes a commonplace thing, a part of life, a part of a ninja's career, and the foundation of one's own survival, it will no longer be so scary. There is more than killing, only war and fire are a good way to hone people. Time passed like this for 3 months. During these months, Saitama and Shisui went out of the village to carry out tasks non-stop, honing his skills in the name of name. A few months have also brought about some changes in Saitama, and his whole temperament has begun to change towards the cold side. As a companion, Shisui was naturally the first to notice this change in Saitama, but he seemed helpless, and he felt that he was starting to move away from Saitama. What happened in the past few months made Chiyu feel very good. The increase in strength is a good thing anyway. During the period, I also met Uchiha Fugaku as the captain several times, and got some pertinent advice in ninjutsu. Among them is the shadow clone technique that Saitama has always wanted to learn. It's rare to be free today. Saitama didn't perform the task of going out of the village again after completing the task of chasing down spies last time. Some of Saitama's current missions are distributed by the guards, and some are received by Shisui, Uchiha Mori, or Hayashi in the village. After all, there is no Jonin leader. He just graduated from the ninja school. To leave the village task. It was already May of Konoha's 45th year, and the outside world became even more chaotic. The war begins. As a member of the Uchiha family, Saitama didn't really feel the tension of wartime. The Uchiha family still has a tendency in Konoha, that is, during a general war, you can choose whether to go out of the village to fight for the village. Now is not the time to go. Chiyu put on everything she had, arranged her appearance, and walked out of the house. During this period of time, it seems that Saitama has reached the time of growth. He eats more, and his body changes every day. In the past few months, his height has jumped up a few times, and he has reached about 1.4 meters. Master Mori, I wonder if the family has any troops going to the front line? Seeing Uchiha Mori, Saitama didn't say much, and directly stated his purpose. At present, Konoha is inextricably fighting with Sand Ninja, and the whole Konoha is full of chilling atmosphere. Uchiha didn't completely stay out of this kind of battle, and some people in the family were still transferred to join the front line. Uchiha Mori frowned, and looked at Saitama with complicated eyes. In the past few months, Uchiha Mori has been a witness to Saitama's performance. He saw Saitama, who was training hard to strengthen his strength, and also saw the expressionless Saitama when performing tasks. Actually, you don't need to work so hard. You don't have to care about going to the battlefield. Uchiha Mori still said what he was thinking. He is very optimistic about Saitama's future, and Saitama's potential is only a handful among Uchiha. Joining the guards, I have the mission of Uchiha on my shoulders. The family has a team that is going to follow the support troops in my village to the front line. I will put you in then. Knowing Saitama's decision, Uchiha-san made an arrangement after a little thought. As the popular person in front of the patriarch of the Uchiha family, he still has a great say in the Uchiha family, and his strength is also very strong. Uchiha Mori can make some of his own decisions on family matters. The captain also said that you don't need to restrain you can do whatever you want. Saitama smiled for no reason, and looked up into Uchiha-sen's eyes, with a hint of ease and firmness in his eyes. In the next few days, Saitama stayed with the members of the guards, communicating with each other and learning from each other. In this group, Saitama resolutely became the role model. Although he is the youngest, his strength is one of the best. During this period of time, Saitama's performance was also seen by them, and they kept repeating the task, and finally completed the task. 3 days passed like this, and at the moment when Saitama was about to lose patience, Uchiha-san finally brought good news. Katama, report to the army and the family in the afternoon. Lin is the captain of the reinforcements. Okay. Saitama said calmly, but her heart began to surge. Fierce battles are where he will eventually go, and ordinary tasks can no longer satisfy his appetite. Although today's Saitama is just a new recruit who just graduated from ninja school, the dead souls in his hands are not necessarily less than those who have been ninjas for many years. I have been longing for stimulation and becoming stronger in my heart, and Saitama's growth rate is terrifying. Saying goodbye to Uchiha-san, Saitama slowly walked back home. Granny Xiang is busy with work. After graduation, Shiyu has less time to eat at home, and sometimes even goes out for 5 or 6 days. Naturally, Granny Xiang has even less time to cook for him. In the past few days, it was rare for Saitama to stay in the village, so Kairo Uchiha naturally greeted him with good food and drink. Mother-in-law, I'm back and I'm still busy. Looking at the aging figure, even though the back began to bend, my heart was still warm. Yes, Xiao Qiyu. At noon, my mother-in-law made your favorite braised pork. I will eat more later, or I will make it according to the method you said before. My mother-in-law has been stewing it on a slow fire all morning. Uchiha Xiang said in the unique tone of the old man, with a smile on his face, and the lines on his face became clearer. Then I must eat more at noon. After finishing speaking, Shiyu walked out of the kitchen and sat in the yard. Now, after more than 10 missions, big and small, Saitama can use all his skills flexibly, and has a deeper understanding of the use of ninjutsu and sword technique. On the battlefield, Saitama was also the result of careful consideration. If he wants to gain the right to speak in Konoha, he must first use his strength to build his reputation, and then continue to increase his strength step by step to fish Uchiha out of that vortex. The battlefield is the place where Saitama can not only increase his strength, but also gain fame. Although Saitama is still too weak now, blood and fire will make him stronger. Page 45. After the meal, Saitama tidied up the dishes diligently, asked Uchiha Kaira to rest in the yard, and went to the kitchen to wash and brush. Mother-in-law, the time for this mission may be a bit long. You have to take care of yourself at home. If you need help, you can ask Jishue for help. I have already told him. Hey, okay, little Saitama, go at ease. Uchiha's men don't have mother-in-laws. Uchiha Xiang looked at Saitama calmly, and a faint light flickered in his cloudy eyes. After bidding farewell to Granny Xiang and getting dressed, Saitama hung his saber around his waist and just walked out of the house, and Granny Xiang still sat quietly in that yard, staring at the child she had watched grow up, drifting away. Although he is still very young, Uchiha Xiang still feels that this child seems to be carrying something very important on his shoulders. Even so, his back is still so tall and straight. Arriving at the assembly point of the Uchiha reinforcements, Saitama saw the personnel sent by Uchiha this time, a total of about 20 people, not too many. Saitama is not very well known in the entire Uchiha clan, and those who know him are limited to those companions who often train together in the guards. Therefore, when Shiyu stepped into here, the eyes of nearly 10 people were cast on him. But following the ninja's rules, they didn't ask any questions, and quietly waited for the person in charge to arrive. Among this group of people, the older ones are only nearly 30 years old, and the younger ones are only 15 or 16 years old. Saitama didn't find anyone he knew among this group of people, but out of consideration for his fellow clan, he still nodded friendly. When someone saw the friendly Saitama, they also nodded knowingly in response. Some may have tight faces because they are about to go to the battlefield. Although there is no malice, it makes people feel that they are not close. In this way, after standing for almost half an hour, two more young people came one after another. Uchiha Lin finally arrived late. At this time, Uchiha Lin still had that expression of keeping strangers away, looking very cold. It seems that everyone is here. Everyone stood together in a certain order, watching Uchiha Lin. This time, our mission is to go to the front line with Konoha's logistics and reinforcements. You are also considered to be the best of the Uchiha, and it is still too late to abstain. As soon as the voice fell, Uchiha Lin looked around and found that no one had any objections, so he continued talking. In this war, I hope that the lords can play our Uchiha's prestige on the battlefield, at least not to let the glory of our ancestors fall. Looking up at the sky, Uchiha Lin raised his hand, jumped up, and ran towards the Konoha gate. Everyone, including Saitama, also turned into a black shadow, leaped over the roof, and followed Uchiha Lin. Before reaching the gate, Saitama saw the assembled crowd there. The reinforcements this time are not only the members of the Uchiha family, but also the major families of Konoha. After a pause, Uchiha's people occupied an open space near the gate, and Uchiha Lin continued to move forward. There was a person who was familiar with Saitama but had only met once. Master Orochimaru, the Uchiha reinforcements have assembled. Walking to the side of Orochimaru, Uchiha Lin straightened his face and said to him. The general person in charge of the reinforcements this time is Orochimaru, and Uchiha Lin is just Uchiha's leader. Glancing at the area where Uchiha was, Orochimaru licked his lips with his tongue and said in a hoarse voice. Okay, we will go out when the Hyuga clan arrives. Yes. Uchiha Lin still respects Orochimaru, who is called Sannin. After all, Uchiha respects the strong. Chiyu looked at Orochimaru intently. His gaze was too aggressive just now. At this time Orochimaru was still at his peak combat power, very scary. Chapter 16 Frontlines in War. The troops set off in the afternoon in such a mighty way. There were nearly 1,000 people in the group, including nearly 20 people sent by families of all sizes. From the perspective of the whole army, the number sent by Uchiha can be said to be the least. Only a few there were more than 50 people, and even Hyuga sent a whole member division force. But Saitama didn't care about such behavior in the slightest. The performance of Uchiha's people on the battlefield is not reflected by the number of people. After 3 days of raiding, the support troops of Konoha village finally arrived at the front line. The battle here has already fallen into anxiety. Konoha and Sand Hidden have fought back and forth. Although Konoha is stronger on the surface, he cannot fully put his combat power on the battlefield here. You know, Konoha, it's not just fighting with Sanyin.as, a big country surrounded by enemies. This is not the only battlefield for Konoha. The generals in charge of guarding Sagakushi's side are Orochimaru and Narashikahiza, who is still young but already known for his resourcefulness. Arriving at the camp, after arranging the accommodation, Uchiha Lin followed Orochimaru's call to the main tent. Orochimaru needs to hold a meeting to assign the next combat missions of each unit. The meeting went on until midnight, and Saitama couldn't fall asleep in the tent. One reason was that on the real battlefield, the chilling atmosphere infected him and made him restless, and the other reason was that he didn't dare to really fall asleep in such an environment. At midnight, the camp was quiet except for the patrolling people who were still moving around, monitoring everything in and around the camp. After tossing and turning, Saitama was about to get out of the tent to go around, although Uchiha Lin said before that try not to run around at night. In the dark night sky like ink, the stars flicker sparsely, and the lonely air keeps fermenting in such a night. The tent where Saitama was located was next to Uchiha Lin, but at this time, he seemed to have fallen asleep, and he didn't know if he was asleep, and Saitama didn't want to disturb him, so he chose another direction and walked directly. There are still many people patrolling, and the frequency is very high. Along the way, Saitama encountered several waves, and everyone's strength is not low. Anyway, Saitama felt the abundant chakra in their bodies. Saitama didn't know where he was going so late. He just walked around aimlessly, checking Konoha's defense situation by the way. Walking to a shadow, Shiyu suddenly found a familiar figure not far away. This is already near the main tent. I guess Orochimaru is also wandering around the camp? He didn't dare to say hello. Shiyu knew that his current status was too low, and he was not at the same level as Orochimaru. Under the moonlight, the figure raised its head, its hair fluttering gently with the evening breeze, leaving Saitama with only a lonely back. Swallowing his saliva, Saitama found that the current Orochimaru was very attractive, giving people a strong and stable feeling. Backing away slowly, Saitama didn't want to disturb Orochimaru. 1 step, 2 steps. Saitama suddenly stopped her steps, her body seemed to be frozen. Page 46. A pair of golden snake eyes stared at Saitama, and a wicked smile appeared in his eyes. Shiyu saw Orochimaru turn around and smiled at himself. I can feel the uneasiness in your heart. Orochimaru walked in front of Shiyu, lowered his head, and said softly. The evening wind at this time made Shiyu feel a little cold, and a drop of sweat appeared on his forehead. Even after he had been baptized for several months, the aura of Orochimaru still made him feel depressed, and he was almost out of breath. The air was suffocated, and Saitama felt that Orochimaru in front of him let go of the suppression of his aura. Going to the battlefield at such a young age, is Uchiha alone? Orochimaru pursed his lips, sticking out his tongue, and a hoarse voice sounded. Master Orochimaru, you are joking. As a member of Konoha, I have the responsibility to protect Konoha, and I am willing to come to the front line. When did the Uchiha people become as enlightened as you are? Orochimaru became a little interested, and what the little ghost said in front of him was interesting, unlike those Uchihas he met before. After less than half a year after graduating from ninja school, you took the initiative to apply to join the battlefield. Do you have confidence in your own strength? Orochimaru asked again. Shiyu lowered his head, his heart tightened, and Orochimaru knew himself. Only fighting is the ultimate affiliation of a ninja, isn't it, Ashimaru-sama? Saitama did not show any weakness, and raised his head to look directly at the pair of shining snake eyes. Go to rest early, you Uchiha's task is not light. Orochimaru stopped asking, turned around and walked towards the tent. He has a slight interest in this young Uchiha boy who is not young but has a strong tone. According to his own perception, the chakra in Saitama's body is also very sufficient, which is comparable to the amount of a Chunin. If this war is over, this Uchiha named Saitama can still survive. Orochimaru doesn't mind what happens, because he sees the desire for power in Saitama's eyes. As a ninja's war, the logistical supplies will not be like ordinary human wars, hoarding a lot of supplies behind the camp to support the progress of the war, but will be replenished every few days. After all, the ninja wants to burn food and destroy something. Yes, it is too simple. The day after Saitama arrived at the front line, he understood his mission. In view of the particularity of ninja wars, there will be several backup material transportation lines in each war, and ninjas are needed to guard these places. Saitama's task this time is to guard one of the routes to protect the perfect transportation of materials. Although these lines are very important information on Konoha's side, they are not guaranteed to be known by enemy spies. To know spies among ninjas, it is hard to guard against. Saitama's team consists of 4 members. A ninja named Chuanmu, about 30 years old, good at using Earth Dungeon, Konoha Churinin, Seidoyanaji, Konoha Rajitsu Ninja, Songnin, Hinata Tree, branch member, Songnin including Saitama, a member of the Uchiha who is fully capable of being a ninja. Even though he is a ninja, there are 3 such teams near this supply route, and Saitama and others are just one of them. Chuanmu is the captain of the mission team. He has a lot of actual combat experience, and his judgment of the situation is completely inferior to the other members of the team. It is said that he participated in World War II as a ninja and survived. For such an arrangement, the other members of the team did not complain, and Chuanmu still has the strength to take on such a responsibility. Our task is only to snipe the enemies who are trying to attack the grain transportation brigade. The enemy is in the dark, and we are also in the dark. The 4 gathered together, and Chuanmu began to assign tasks. As the only elder in the team, Chuanmu felt that he had to teach these newcomers a lesson for the first time on the battlefield. Just set up traps and wait for the enemy to arrive. Chuanki said earnestly, but kept staring at Saitama. When Chuanmu finished speaking, Saitama frowned, which was naturally noticed by Chuanmu. I know that some of you are geniuses, but this is a battlefield, and a single manpower cannot be changed, unless it is at the level of Sannin. So, put away some careful thinking. In the last words, Chuanmu seemed to be pointing. Saitama nodded, looked around, and found that there were no objections. His strength really cannot change a battle, so it is indeed the best way to calm down and complete what you need to do according to the task. After setting up some small security devices nearby, the team began to get busy. This is 10 miles behind the battlefield, where the grain transportation brigade must pass. Captain, there is a situation. Everyone was busy, and Hinata Tree, who was in charge of guarding, suddenly issued an early warning. What's the situation? Everyone began to hide on the spot. Captain Chuanmu asked in a low voice. There are 3 chakras approaching from the northwest, not the familiar chakras. Hinata continued to observe with blank eyes and reported to Chuanmu. Get ready to see if it's an enemy. This happened before the traps were set up here, and Chuanmu also felt that something was wrong. Saitama crouched under a bush, staring at the northwest direction, and the rest of the people were not far from him. The vegetation here is not dense, and there are not many places where people can hide. After all, it is close to the boundary of the hidden sand. The wind and sand are very strong, and the climate conditions are not suitable for the growth of vegetation. Shwa! There was a sound of breaking through the air, and the 3 figures began to approach. They dexterously sprinted over the relatively complicated terrain, and within a short time they approached the cordon set up by Saitama and others. The first figure paused and stopped in a grass field. With a wave of his left hand, the 2 smaller figures behind him also stopped. Discovered? A drop of sweat appeared on Chuanmu's forehead. Although his age has allowed him to accumulate experience, but at the same time, he has become a family and has scruples, which makes his ninja style start to become timid. Willing to take huge risks. According to Chuanmu's observations, the leader is a Jonin from San Yin's side, and the back is also a powerful Chunin. The combat power of his side is completely incomparable. A trace of retreat appeared in his eyes. There is no need to waste life here, take the information out, and say that Sannin actually sent a Jounin to destroy the supply line. While the enemy hadn't completely approached, Chuanmu made a few gestures towards the few people on the side. Retreat! I can't fight you. Saitama read out the message from those gestures. The rest of the people also have the intention to retire. The Chunin is unable to defeat the Jonin. Kick, kick, kick. Just as they were about to retreat, the enemy rushed to their hiding place, and they found the Konoha ninja hiding here. Run! Chuanmu yelled, and after speaking, his figure accelerated and ran towards the rear. Everyone in Konoha, do you think you can run away? The leader Seigen Ninja sneered, and also accelerated. Fortunately, my team has scout ninjas and found the Konoha ninja hiding here, otherwise I would have missed such a credit. A 4-member Konoha team, the highest combat power is nothing more than Chunin, which made San Shinobi show a cruel smile. Wind escape big breakthrough. A ninjutsu slammed over, and everyone had to turn their heads to resist or dodge, thus, the best time to escape was missed. To do an earth flow wall. Chuanmu shouted coldly, and a huge earth wall rose from the ground, blocking the enemy's ninjutsu. Page 47. The ninjutsu scratched the earthen wall, leaving a huge wound. After a while, the earthen barrier collapsed. Fortunately, the ninjutsu attack was blocked in the end. Hey! Chuanmu sighed. He didn't expect the luck of this mission to be so good. Saitama grasped the sword hanging from his waist, staring at the enemy. The leader was a middle-aged strong man with a darker complexion, wearing a sand-hidden ninja forehead on his forehead. He should be the captain of this infiltration team. The other 2 were young ninjas in their 20s, but their firm eyes told Saitama and the others that they were not rookies. Kill them! The middle-aged Shangren said coldly, and at the same time rushed to Chuanmu. He could see that Chuanmu was the captain of this team. The battle is on the verge of breaking out. There is no way to avoid it. Looking at each other, Shiyu knew that he couldn't get away. The only way was to fight, gritting their teeth. Kawaki and Zayadoyanagi confronted the Jonin, while Saitama and Hinata each found a Jonin. Fire escape, the jutsu of the fireball. A huge amount of heat went straight to the Chunin, and Saitama made a ninjutsu attack first. Wind Dun Vacuum Jade. Chunin also used a ninjutsu, and several wind balls spewed out from his mouth, hitting Saitama's fire dun. The two kinds of ninjutsu collided, and Saitama's fire escape directly crushed San Ninjutsu's ninjutsu and rushed towards him. What? I thought that no matter how bad this attack was, it should be able to counteract Saitama's ninjutsu, but I never thought that my ninjutsu would be pierced directly, so I quickly hid to the side, and San Ninja's face was gloomy. Shwa! A knife came through the air, and the thunder attribute chakra on the knife was dazzling. Shiyu rushed over quickly while using ninjutsu. Ding! San Ninja used kunai to hold him back, but he couldn't stop the lightning on the knife. Bah! Following kunai, the lightning current flowed towards San Shinobu. Boom! San Shinobu kicked Saitama, giving up the kunai in his hand at the same time. Gliding backward, San Shinobu's face darkened. The right hand that had just grabbed kunai was scorched black, and the entire arm was numb. But if he hadn't given up so quickly, he would probably have been killed in a face-to-face encounter. Unexpectedly, there is such an character in Konoha. San Shinobi sighed a little, and then began to avoid it again. Shwa! Saitama continued to swing the knife, not giving him time to recover, and now the sword in Saitama's hand is no longer the ordinary sword he bought himself, but the reward of Uchiha Fugaku, the captain, after completing a hunting mission in Saitama, and the previous sword was against chakra. Its transmission efficiency is indeed too low, and Saitama has long wanted to change it. The one in my hand now has good chakra conductivity due to the addition of chakra conductive metal when it was built. Shwa! Saitama swung the knife in a circle again at the moment San Ninja jumped up to avoid, and slashed at San Ninja who was still in the air. Boom! The figure was directly slashed by the knife in Saitama's hand, and fell into the sand all over the ground. Turning his eyes, Saitama pointed the knife at the ground beside him, where San Shinobi was squatting on the ground with lingering fear. Bah! The lightning on the knife was still beating, and Saitama's eyes were indifferent, looking directly at the San Ninja. To be kind to the enemy is to be cruel to oneself. Saitama does not intend to continue to procrastinate. The sooner he ends his battle, the sooner he can help others and get out of danger earlier. Bang! Saitama kicked San Ninja hard after being dodged by San Shinobu, and kicked San Shinobi hard with his right foot, and San Shinobu was kicked flying hard, hit a tree behind. Chapter 17 Beheading. Shwa! The knife in his hand slashed down again, and the corner of Chiyu's mouth curled up. San Shinobi originally had no backhand strength under this blow, but he never thought that this person would be so courageous. Boom! An arm fell to the ground, blood began to splash. San Ninja dragged his mutilated body back quickly. Flew! A roar came from San Ninja's mouth. He had a ferocious face and a hint of madness in his eyes. He pressed his right hand hard on the wound on his left arm, which was cut off by Saitama in half. The wound was scorched black. On the side, Hugashu was struggling to deal with the Chunin in front of him. This was a ninja who was also good at martial arts, but his speed was so fast that most of the jutsu of the Hyuga clan lost most of its effect. Hearing the cry, the San Ninja kicked Hinata Tree's hand, breaking up his attack, and turned his head to look at Saitama. Yen Yuan. Seeing this, Zayo's heart was raised in his throat. Boom! Saitama stepped on Yamahara's chest, causing him to vomit blood uncontrollably, and looked coldly at the enemy who was lying on the ground and had no strength to fight back. Puff! The knife in his hand was ruthlessly inserted into the vital part of his chest, and Shan Yuan, who was still struggling, suddenly froze. His head was thrown upwards, and then he lost his breath. With the knife drawn, Saitama raised his head and looked at Zayo, who was looking over. Damn it! Seeing this scene, Zayo yelled fiercely, and then rushed over. The enemy Jonin, who was not far away, thought that he could easily resolve the battle on his side, but he never thought that one person on his side would be beheaded before the battle started. The movements in his hands quickened, and he was going to get rid of the two Konoha ninjas in front of him first. He originally had a playful mentality, but now that he saw the situation clearly, he started to get serious. Chuanmu and Zayadoyanagi tried their best to drag the Jonin in front of them, with a few wounds on their bodies from time to time. Oh! Fire escape, Feng Xian's fire art. Seeing the ninja named Sho rushing towards him, Shiyu stopped and stepped back, with a short knife hanging on his waist, and launched a fire escape attack. Boom! 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 Like a fairy scattering flowers, the flame seemed to be carrying infinite power, heading towards the ninja. Zio frowned, his steps began to change, and his body kept changing positions in order to avoid Saitama's ninjutsu attacks. His advantages were well reflected at this time, and he could really do whatever he wanted with his fast speed. Staring at Saitama, Zio hesitated, and started to speed up again. He must kill this Konoha ninja today. Ding! Saitama once again pulled out the dagger at his waist, slashed vigorously, and pressed Zio to the ground vigorously. Put! Zio was chopped down and knelt on the ground. He never thought that such a kid would have such strength. Before he could continue exerting his strength, Saitama increased the chakra output in his hand, and suddenly, the thunder and lightning followed the kunai that came into contact with Zio. Ah! Zio screamed after being shocked, and then smoke started to rise from his head. Bang! Saitama kicked Zio, who was beaten to death by his hand, and was about to go forward to make up the knife. Shoo! The lightning continued to spread on the knife, turning into an electric current visible to the naked eye. Page 48. Swing the knife, chop, Saitama is ready to kill this sand ninja with a single knife. Boom! A foot kicked, and the moment Saitama didn't react at all, the footprints were on his chest. Put! Being kicked firmly by this kick, Shiyu half bent his body and threw it backwards. Boom! Saitama stopped after smashing a tree. Leaning at the foot of this half-big tree, Shiyu couldn't help spitting out a mouthful of blood, and looked at the owner of that foot just now with a little cloudy eyes. It's okay, Saitama. Hubishu also ran over at this time and stood aside, guarding against the enemy's second attack. Well, it's okay. Touching the spot where he was kicked just now, Shiyu felt a faint pain, probably due to internal damage. Saitama stood up with the knife in one hand and the tree in the other. If you are seriously injured by the enemy, if you want to survive, you must not surrender, but continue to fight. And Chuanmu and Zayadoyanagi, who had been entangled with this Jonin before, also rushed over. Before, when I saw that Saitama was going to kill another sand ninja, this Jounin burst out with extremely strong chakra, instantly injured Kawaki and Zayadoyanagi, and rushed towards Saitama, but no one responded the moment he came over. He kicked out angrily. Humph, I really underestimated you Konoha ninjas. The Jonin named Seabuckthorn showed a strange smile. But you all have to die today. After finishing speaking, there was a trace of chakra air around Seabuckthorn's body, and the breath of the whole person became completely different. Shwa! The figure of the Seabuckthorn disappeared instantly. Be careful! Saitama didn't know when two-hooked jade appeared in his eyes, so he also caught the enemy's movement, so he wanted to remind Chuenki and others on the other side. Boom! With just one punch, Seabuckthorn sent Chuanmu, who was holding him back, flying away. Put! The person was still in the air. Chuanmu's blood spurted out as if he didn't want money, and fell to the ground unconscious. Boom! Another kick, Seabuckthorn kicked Zhaotan Lu's knife, sending him flying a few feet away. With the example of Chuanmu, Zayoto Lu made a slight evasive movement. Although he still didn't see the Seabuckthorn's movement at all, this did not prevent him from putting the knife in front of him. With the buffer of the saber, Zhaotan Lu was not seriously injured, but hit a tree, shook his head, and passed out. Hee. With a few meaningless laughter, Seabuckthorn turned around and turned his target to Saitama. Saitama's eyes froze, his body tensed. Hinata also put on a defensive posture, the Goyu in his eyes twirled wildly, and Sharingan was operating to the extreme. Kick. Seabuckthorn rushed over, swept his legs, and came towards Saitama's head with an astonishing sound of piercing through the air. Boom! At this speed, even with the dynamic vision bonus of Sharingan, you can only see the trajectory of some movements, and your body can't keep up at all, so you can only shrink back with all your strength. Other ways. With a certain degree of evasion, this leg still hit Saitama's right waist, and he was directly swept away by this blow. Together with Hinata Tree, who was completely unresponsive, the two of them smashed towards the not far away rock. Boom! The rock was shattered directly, and Saitama and Hinata naturally felt uncomfortable. Put. Spit out a mouthful of blood, Saitama felt that his ribs seemed to be broken, and his internal organs were also injured twice by the broken bones. Saitama, are we going to die? Hinata, who was next to Saitama, leaned against Saitama's shoulder and said weakly, "I end that blow just now." Although he didn't suffer the first damage from the sea buckthorn, he used Saitama as a cushion at the moment he was knocked into the air, and endured the subsequent damage. This is the biggest dilemma Saitama has encountered since graduation, life and death. After Hugashu finished speaking, the whole person fell into a coma. Today, there are 4 people in the entire team, only Saitama is still conscious. Boy, keep going crazy. Zayo, who was lying on the ground over there, also regained some strength at this time, leaning against a tree, and taunted. Humph. Saitama spat out a mouthful of bloody saliva, dismissive of such a character. Stepping on the fine sand on the ground, Sea Buckthorn walked over slowly, with a cruel smile on his lips. Ninjas of Konoha, I will send you to meet Hokage right now. Sea Buckthorn stopped approaching as he spoke, and his hands began to form seals. In the blink of an eye, the seal was over. Wind escape empty bomb. An air bomb was sprayed out of his mouth, and the sea buckthorn's eyes showed a playful look. This feeling of watching the enemy die, the enemy is powerless, and there is hopelessness in the eyes is really fascinating. Sea Buckthorn thought, and then looked into Saitama's eyes. He liked this feeling. Ha! This is? Sea Buckthorn was disappointed. Even in the face of such a predicament, Chiyu's eyes were still so determined, and there are 2 hook jades spinning strangely inside. A trace of electric arc suddenly appeared on Chiyu's body, and Chiyu couldn't help trembling, as if he was enduring something. Shwa! Saitama stood up, drew his sword and slashed, and the short sword with lightning in it chopped off the flying air bullet with one blow. Now Saitama seemed to be uninjured, and started fighting again. Humph, originally this trick has not been perfected, so I don't plan to use it. In this case, I can only try it. Saitama frowned, pointed the knife at the sea buckthorn, and the electric arc kept flashing on his knife and his body, setting him off like a god who controls thunder and lightning, even though this god looks a bit miserable now. What? What is this? Zayo on the side was surprised that Saitama still has fighting power, but the well-informed sea buckthorn recognized the ninjutsu that Saitama is using now. Rainbow chakra mode? Sea Buckthorn said uncertainly. In his impression, this is the untold mystery of Yunin village and the root of Reikige's strength. He never thought that he would appear in a wooden on the boy of Yi village. Shwa! Saitama moved his hands and feet a few times, but his body was still in pain. This was not only caused by the chakra of the thunder attribute running around his body, but also the wounds left by the sea buckthorn. Gripping the saber tightly, Saitama rushed straight over, swiping the saber from half his waist, from the bottom to the top, swung it out for a month and a half, carrying endless leeway. Shwa! Shwa! Saitama continued to attack, and barely stimulated the cells of his whole body with thunder attribute chakra, and reached the primary thunder chakra mode. He wanted to take this opportunity to end the battle. Boom! Saitama swung the knife, but was caught by Sea Buckthorn with one hand. I saw that Sea Buckthorn held Saitama's knife hand with his right hand, stopping Saitama's attack. Even though the thunder attribute chakra kept wandering to him, Sea Buckthorn still looked indifferent. Humph, do you think you can defeat a Jonin in this way? Naive. Sea Buckthorn said, kicking Saitama's chest. Crack! Chiyu heard the sound of bone cracking from his chest, and involuntarily slammed his body backward, and the knife in his hand was also snatched away. Put! Saitama spat out another mouthful of blood. There's such a big gap with Jonin. Even if the speed kept up, the bonuses given by Schwanguyu's Sharingan did not close the gap with the enemy at all. Page 49. Seeing Saitama close her eyes resignedly, Sea Buckthorn smiled inwardly, and then revealed a ruthless look. So, ninjas of Konoha, go. What, that's that? Sea Buckthorn was surprised again, and was about to give the final blow, but saw Saitama squatting together, pulling away from him, and dodging his attack. Sharingan? Sea Buckthorn had seen Goyu in Saitama's eyes before, and didn't find it strange, but at this moment, Sharingan still brought him some obstacles, and his state was not very good. The outbreak of Sharingan made many of his attacks on Saitama ineffective. Die! Seabuckthorn flew up and kicked Saitama heavily, intending to end this Konoha ninja here with one blow. Boom! The chakra in his body jerked again, and the arc surged again. Saitama endured the severe pain, rolled his body, and avoided the blow again. Die! Saitama, who was dodging, didn't just get caught. A carp straightened up and stood up. The same kick swept over and hit the Seabuckthorn. Boom! This blow, no matter in terms of speed or strength, was not much different from Seabuckthorn unable to pace. The Seabuckthorn was hit by the whip leg and hit the thigh hard. The air was burnt by the electric arc on Saitama's body, and the Seabuckthorn naturally felt uncomfortable after being hit like this, and flew out backwards. Climbing out from a pile of trees, Seabuckthorn looked gloomy. Boy, you're looking for death. Seabuckthorn didn't expect to be hurt like this by such a kid today. Spitting out a mouthful of blood, Seabuckthorn held his right thigh with his hands, where Saitama just attacked, and a piece of scorched black also appeared on that part. Judging by Seabuckthorn's appearance, he was not seriously injured. Oomph, why are you talking so much nonsense? Chiyu's mouth showed a hint of sarcasm, and his feet started to move again. Take advantage of his illness and kill him. Chiyu still understood this truth. Without any other scruples, Saitama rushed over with an electric arc. Oomph. You're looking for death. Seabuckthorn's eyes turned hard. He didn't care about his thigh injury, and also rushed over. Boom! Boom! The two kept colliding, and Chiyu didn't care about his injuries at all, and his style of play was to trade injuries for injuries. Once again kicked Seabuckthorn's waist, Saitama also ate the enemy's whip, and the two of them took a few steps back at the same time. Ho! 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 The two panted heavily at the same time, and Chiyu narrowed one eye even more painfully. While opening Sharingan, while using the unskilled lightning escape chakra mode, the load on the body is still too great. Sweat appeared on his forehead and dripped down one by one, wetting Saitama's clothes. Seabuckthorn was also difficult. Most of the places in contact with Saitama were scorched black, and there was a piece of chest that was not covered by clothes and was scorched by electric shock. Boy, it's the limit. Seabuckthorn tried to defeat Saitama verbally, although he felt that his body had also entered the limit countdown time. Oomph, it's still possible to kill you. Saitama frowned, and the chakra in his body had indeed reached a limit, which he had never experienced before. The scarlet eyes stared at the Seabuckthorn. The electric arc on his body was still flickering, and Saitama was ready to finish him quickly. Boom! Saitama staggered and dodged a handful of kunai. His eyes fell on Zayo not far away, and he even forgot about you. The corner of Saitama's mouth curled up, and the arc flickered. Shwa! Saitama kicked his feet and rushed over. Flew! Be careful! Seabuckthorn didn't expect Zayo to intervene in the battle here, and failed to make a sneak attack. He hurriedly reminded, and his body also ran towards Zayo. But it was still too late. Saitama was one step closer to retirement, and Saitama's speed is now a little faster. After all, Seabuckthorn's speed has slowed down due to physical exertion, but Saitama also increased the stimulation of the thunder attribute chakra on his body, seeking a faster speed. Put! Wrapped with a chakra arc of lightning attributes, Saitama held a handful of kunai in his right hand and inserted it into Zayo's chest. The extreme speed gave Saitama super penetrating power, and with his entire arm, Saitama's blow directly penetrated Zayo's chest, breaking a big hole in his back. Let's die together. Ha ha. Zayo was hit by this blow, not sad but happy. As he spoke, blood kept flowing from his mouth. Zayo hugged Saitama and shouted, Master Seabuckthorn, quick! Kill him! Although he didn't say it very clearly, Seabuckthorn on the side must have understood his meaning. The feet continued to run over, and he didn't know when there was an extra kunai in his hand. Although Saitama quickly broke free from Zayo's embrace, it still wasted half a second. For this little time, it was enough time for Seabuckthorn to rush over and give Saitama an attack. The Goyu in his eyes twirled wildly. Chiyu stared at kunai who was stabbing him, and the corner of his mouth showed a trace of powerlessness. Puff! The sound of the blade entering the body, kunai pierced into Chiyu's left chest, and Chiyu's hand also held the kunai, preventing it from going deeper. Hee hee! Saitama smiled with blood dripping from the corner of his mouth. Boom! As soon as his knees contracted, Saitama hit an important part of Sea Buckthorn's lower body with a blow, and the arc of lightning attribute also exploded at the contact point. A painful expression appeared on Sea Buckthorn's face. He seemed to have heard the sound of a chick hatching just now. All the strength in my body began to dissipate. He continued to bend his legs, and his knees pushed up again with an electric arc visible to the naked eye. After finishing everything, Chiyu staggered away from the Sea Buckthorn, supported kunai on his chest with one hand, and supported the ground with the other, and the electric arc all over his body slowly disappeared. Sea Buckthorn, on the other hand, knelt on the spot, with his hands weakly placed on both sides of his thighs, his breath faintly absent. Put! Spit out a mouthful of blood. Saitama felt that he had really reached his limit, and that he was strong enough to last until now. The double-hooked jade in his eyes began to disappear, and he returned to his normal appearance. The blood from the corner of the mouth flowed down the corner of the mouth, slowly dripping to wet the area under the body, and the chest was even more wet with blood. Looking at the motionless Sea Buckthorn not far away, Saitama wondered if the opponent could no longer move, but he himself could no longer attack. Shwa! Shwa! Several piercing sounds came, and Chiyu's heart tightened inexplicably. Reluctantly turned his head to look, and saw the mark on the forehead of the leader of the people who came. His consciousness could no longer stay clear, his eyes went dark, and Saitama was also kneeling there, motionless. Captain! Look! One of the ninjas cautiously landed not far from Saitama said. The terrain here has been destroyed by fighting, and the ground is also covered with charred black pits, which were left after Saitama's attack failed. Quick! See if it's still there. As soon as the words fell, a group of 4 people scattered and began to check. The leading ninja walked up to Saitama, saw kunai stuck in his chest, frowned, and glanced at the sand ninja who was kneeling opposite Saitama. Ha! Still alive? The ninja seemed to feel Saitama's weak breathing, and his expression changed. Quick, bring them back to the camp. The one here is still alive. Holding Saitama horizontally, the leading ninja made no extra movements, and was about to leave in one direction. Leave one person to clean up the battlefield. After saying these words at the end, the ninja took Saitama away from here. Chapter 18. Chapter 18 Follow-up. The wind is buzzing in my ears, like all kinds of bees, buzzing and making noise. Saitama felt the movement of his body. Combined with the last sight he saw before fainting, he knew that he should be saved. This time, he was indeed the one who made a fool of himself. His strength was not as good as that of the enemy. If he didn't open Sharingan earlier, it would be death. Saitama's original thought was that exposing Sharingan so early would do more harm than good, so he simply assumed that he hadn't opened his eyes. The 6-year-old Lianguya Sharingan, no matter what the clan thinks, those who sit in the high position of Konoha may notice him because of this, especially the man hidden under Konoha. Saitama didn't expect things to develop like this time. Fortunately, I didn't continue my brain twitching at the last moment, and survived the final battle. And after this battle, Saitama also had a reason to explain the awakening of Sharingan. The critical moment of the battle, awakening Sharingan is the excuse he has found now. Where's the medical ninja? Hurry! After an unknown amount of time, Chiyu felt himself being placed on a platform. We'll be there soon. What's the situation? A calm voice sounded. It was a female voice. This is a member of the guard team on the number 2 food transportation line in the rear. It should have been attacked by a sand ninja. I heard the movement and rushed over but did not catch up. Well, it looks quite young. The female voice continued. What happened next? Chiyu didn't have any impression. The injuries on his body made him unable to maintain consciousness, blood loss, broken bones, internal organ damage, none of them were minor injuries. In the confused darkness, Saitama seemed to see Sea Buckthorn standing up again, holding a handful of kunai in his hand, with a cruel sneer on his face, and mocking eyes at Saitama. Die! Said the Sea Buckthorn. Kunai stabbed at Chiyu directly, and Chiyu felt the weakness in his whole body. No matter what he thought in his mind, he couldn't move. Seeing that kunai was getting closer and closer, he was in front of Chiyu in an instant, and he seemed to have foreseen his own death. Go to hell! In the flash of lightning, chakra flashed across Saitama's eyes, and Goyu appeared around his pupils. The scarlet red made him look extremely coquettish. The moment he opened his eyes, Saitama, who was lying flat there, raised his upper body and sat up straight away. At the same time, he clenched his hand into a fist and swung it forward vigorously. Ha! Chiyu saw the surrounding situation. This is a tent. The surrounding is very clean, only the tatami bed under him. Ugh! Just as he was about to move, the wound on his chest was involved, causing Chiyu to feel extreme pain. Lowering his head, Chiyu looked at himself. His upper body was naked, his chest was tightly wrapped in gauze, and a strong smell of medicine came out, which made Chiyu feel a little pungent. Ah! You're awake! The curtain of the tent was pushed open, bringing in a cool breeze. The one who walked in was someone Saitama was familiar with, Uchiha Lin. That he held a large piece of gauze and a pack of pungent medicine in his hand, and it seemed that he was going to change the gauze on Saitama's wound. Well, why are you here? Saitama was a little puzzled. It stands to reason that it is wartime, and fighters like Uchiha Lin should not stay here to take care of him. I just happened to be here today, so I just came to see you casually. Usually these things are done by medical ninjas. As he said, he raised his hands to signal Saitama. You have been in a coma for 3 days. When you were rescued, you thought you were going to die. There was blood all over your body, a handful of kunai stuck in your chest, and you barely breathed. Fortunately, your physical fitness seems to be good. Made it through. Uchiha Lin continued, and when he got to the point, he looked down at Saitama's reaction. It's fine if you can live. You're saved anyway, aren't you? Saitama showed a nonchalant expression and continued to touch his chest. After waking up just now, he moved a few times and it still hurt there. Well, since you're awake, you can change the medicine by yourself. Handing the things in his hand to Saitama, Uchiha Lin sat cross-legged at Saitama's feet, staring at Saitama with interesting eyes. What? After taking the things, Saitama was about to change the dressing. Never thought that Uchiha Rin stared at him intently. He was not shy, but Rin's eyes were a little strange. I really didn't expect you to grow so fast, Saitama. Uchiha Lin smiled. Saitama's record that day is now well known in the camp. 2 Zongnin, and finally defeated a Jnin, and both were hurt by the Jnin. Chiyu didn't answer the words, and continued to move, taking off the gauze on his chest layer by layer. As the wound healed, some bodily fluids would be secreted and mixed with the medicine, making the gauze stick tightly together on the chest, making it difficult to separate. Sure it. The last few layers were really hard to separate. Saitama tore it hard and tore off the gauze. Even the wound was torn again by this rough action. Some blood soaked and wrinkled. Saitama, no fuss. You can't do this. If you change it again, you will be injured again. When will it be better? Uchiha Lin rested his chin with one hand and said with a smile on his face. Simply put the medicine on the wound. Saitama wrapped the gauze and was ready to stand up. He felt discomfort all over his body, which should be the sequelae of not exercising for a long time. How do you feel? Lin stood up and asked leisurely. It's okay, I'm still a little weak. Saitama didn't hide anything, and talked about his physical condition. I'm curious how you defeated that sand ninja? Uchiha asked again, with a trace of inquiry in his eyes. What do you think? Saitama raised his head. Uchiha Rin was half a body taller than him, and he only reached the position below his shoulders. Is that so? Seeing the hooked jade in Saitama's eyes, Uchiha Lin showed the expected expression, but his eyes were still fixed on Saitama's eyes. By the way, are you looking at Schwanguyu just now? It's really amazing. If I hadn't opened my eyes at the last moment and caught that sand ninja by surprise, I don't know if I would be able to stand here. You know, the other party is a jonin. There was a hint of sarcasm at the corner of Chiyu's mouth, and he couldn't help touching his chest, with a look of reminiscence on his face. This time it's a blessing in disguise. Take good care of your injuries and don't think too much. Uchiha Lin patted Saitama's left shoulder and said in a seasoned tone. Let's go out for a walk. The battle with Sand Hidden has started to get anxious again recently. It's been a long time since we really fought each other. We have been testing each other. Very disappointed. Saitama put a piece of clothing stacked on the side of the tatami over his body, and walked outside. At the door, Uchiha Lin pulled up the curtain with one hand, and made an invitation to Saitama with the other hand. Sushiro hasn't seen the sun for a long time. Shiyu felt that today's sun was a bit dazzling, although it made him feel very warm when it fell on his body. After stepping out of the tent, Shiyu realized that the tent he was lying on was the residence he had just been assigned here. No wonder it felt a little familiar, it was so clean and nothing was there. It is now noon, the sun hangs high in the sky, swaying the source of all things to the earth, but there is still a breeze blowing in the air, carrying yellow sand with local characteristics, rustling on the clothes. "Yo, brother is awake?" A voice that made Shiyu feel familiar fell on his ear, and when he turned his head to look, Shiyu found that he didn't recognize him. "You are?" Saitama carefully identified it, but found that he still had no impression. "This is Tsukiko Masano Jonin, thanks to him for bringing you back this time. If it's too late, you might be hopeless." Uchiha Hayashi on the side understood the truth and explained to Saitama. "Oh, so it's you, uncle, thank you so much." Saitama looked at the middle-aged ninja who was about 30 years old, bent down and bowed to him. Page 51. The grace of saving life is not a trivial matter, and Shiyu can't think of any other way to thank him, so I will show it a little now, and there is nothing to lose. They're all Konoha ninjas, and it's right to help each other. My brother's life is also tenacious. He was so weak that day, and he was able to walk out on his own in the past few days. Tsukino Masano looked at Saitama with a friendly smile. The kid from the Uchiha family not only has strength but also has greater potential, and he doesn't mind selling this favor. Seeing the knife behind Tsukiko Masano, Saitama fell into thought, and it seems that he is also a good hand with a knife. The surname Moonlight is inseparable from swords. Shiyu has always known that this family's swordsmanship is very good, and he once thought of learning. I still have something to do, so I won't continue chatting with my brother today. Masano Tsukiko nodded at Uchiha Lin, and said to Saitama after speaking. He walked towards the center of the camp, his figure was very tall and straight. "Okay, I'll talk to uncle next time." Saitama turned sideways and made a gesture of concession without being pretentious. Lin smiled and waved his hand. "Let's go, anyway, I don't have a task today, so I'll accompany you around." Uchiha Lin looked at Tsukiko Masano and turned his head to Saitama after he left. "By the way, how are Hinata and the others doing?" Saitama asked as if he just remembered. "Are you talking about your teammates? It seems that there is nothing serious. I guess they are lying in some tent to recuperate. Anyway, their injuries are not as serious as yours, so you don't care about them." Uchiha Lin said nonchalantly, his eyes resting on Saitama's face. "It's fine." Saitama nodded without further questioning. With the current state of the team, it should be impossible to continue to form. "By the way, the captain asked me to ask if you want to apply to be transferred to the rear for repairs. If you want, you can go back with the next wounded troops." Lin turned sideways, letting go of a ninja who was a bit bloated. Saitama saw that it was a ninja from the Akimichi family. "It's hard for me to come to the battlefield." After just saying this sentence, Shiyu stopped talking, and Lin naturally understood what Shiyu meant, so he stopped asking. "That's right, let's cultivate well recently." Passing by a tent, Shiyu smelled a slight fragrance. "I've been lying down for so long and I haven't eaten yet. Go eat something and take me there." There are also cooked foods in the ninja camp, not only Bingliangwan, but ordinary ninjas have a limited amount of food, and only Jonin can have it. The right to eat unlimited amounts at any time. "Let's go, I'll take you to eat some meat." Nodding, looking at Chiyu's pale face, Lin led Chiyu to a tent not far away without saying a word. "By the way, is it okay for you to eat so much meat just after waking up?" Lin looked at the nearly 10 plates piled up in front of Chiyu. Most of the plates were all kinds of boiled meat, and the rest were boiled eggs. "I'm very hungry, okay, shouldn't I eat more to make up for my injury?" Saitama replied logically. Before Lin continued, he grabbed a large piece of meat and sent it to his mouth. Live chewing, Saitama is delicious. Just after waking up, Shiyu felt a strong sense of hunger, but at that time Lin came in to change his medicine. which made him forget his hunger for a while. When he walked to these tents that provided cooked food for the entire ninja camp, Chiyu smelled that smell, and his body reacted immediately. Like wind in clouds, Saitama finished all the food in front of him in a short time, and the speed was even faster than before he was injured. Hiccuped lightly, and Chiyu felt that most of the injuries on his body had healed up again. Speaking of injuries, Chiyu found that the bones that were kicked and broken by the ninja named Seabuckthorn seemed to have healed long ago. The only thing that made him feel uncomfortable was the wound on his chest that was pierced by kunai. Let's go back. Seeing that Chiyu had finished eating, Lin said in a voice. I have to go to a meeting later. As Uchiha's person in charge of this battlefield, I'm not very busy. Lin said with a hint of ridicule, beckoning Saitama to walk outside the tent. Well, okay. Touching his chest, Chiyu felt that he still had to go back and take a rest. Master Lin. Master Orochimaru told you to come over. Just as the two of them were walking towards Chiyu's tent, a figure quickly fell beside them. Saitama paused and looked at the ninja. This person should be the Uchiha tribe who went to the front with reinforcements with him before, and Saitama had a slight impression of him. Nodding to him, Saitama turned back to Uchiha Lin and said, Then you go, I will go back first. After speaking, he walked away without stopping. Let's go first. Uchiha Hayashi looked at Saitama who was walking away, and said to Uchiha Yun who was standing aside. Then he turned around and left first, followed by Uchiha Yun. Walking slowly back to the tent, Saitama saw the saber leaning against the corner, which should have been returned to him by Tsukiko Masano and the others after they cleaned the battlefield. Without touching the sword, Saitama walked to the side of the tatami and lay down on it. From Uchiha Lin, Saitama knew that the Sand Ninja that day was also not dead, but was captured by the Tsukiko Masano team later, and he is probably receiving ideological education somewhere now. That battle also made Chiyu understand a truth. The lion fought the rabbit with all his strength, and he still wanted to hide his strength on the battlefield, just courting death. Lying flat on the tatami, Saitama felt the wound in his chest. That kunai was inserted directly into the chest, and it hurt the lungs. Fortunately, there were medical ninjas in the camp, and the bone injury was probably caused by medical ninjutsu. It got better very quickly. Now Saitama can only feel a little discomfort in those bones, the rest is fine. Chapter 19 Counterattack Mission. So this time the task is to go around behind the Sand Ninja and fight an eye for an eye? Saitama sighed slightly. Orochimaru was really a master who was not willing to suffer at all. The last time Sand Ninja tried to sneak attack on the food transportation team, it was unsuccessful, and the captain of one of the teams was captured alive. After a series of ideological education, he explained all the plans he knew about Sand Ninja's entanglement, so that Sand Ninja died in vain. The loss was heavy. With the experience of last time, Orochimaru secretly released this targeted mission yesterday to give Sand Ninja a counterattack. Didn't you say that you are very free? I signed up for this mission for you. Uchiha Lin said, still chewing something in his mouth. His cheeks kept wriggling. Anyway, I've rested for so long, and the injury has healed. Saitama didn't care too much. He still liked the task very much. After resting for so long, he also felt that enough was enough. It has been about a week since he woke up. I don't know if it's because of Saitama's own resilience or the high strength of Konoha's medical ninjutsu. Okay, let's go to Ashimara-sama to gather in half an hour, and he will assign you the next specific tasks. Lin didn't talk nonsense, and walked out of Saitama's tent after leaving this sentence. He has other tasks, and he came here just to remind Chiyu. Understood. Watching Uchiha Lin walk out, Saitama was also lost in thought. This counterattack mission is actually quite dangerous. Sahikari will definitely have expected it, but the world of ninjas is like this, and nothing is absolutely safe. Bah! Walking to the side, Saitama hung the knife on his waist, put on a high-neck top of the Uchiha family on his upper body, and a pair of ninja trousers on his lower body, put on the necessary ninja tools, and went out. The boiled beef for lunch was not very tasty, but it was plentiful. It was still sunny outside, but the temperature was not high, even though it was summer. Walking in the camp, Saitama saw the cruelty of the war. Various wounded people could be seen in many places, and most of them had cold faces to make themselves appear stronger. not too tall, shuttling in the camp, the clothes of the Uchiha family, the young age, and the knife on the waist, made many people who saw him recognize Saitama's identity. Potential ninja. Since that mission, Saitama has become somewhat famous. Kitama. A loud voice sounded, causing Chiyu to stop and look in the direction of the voice. Hinata Tree, the members of the original team are also members of the Hyuga branch. I saw Hinata Shu wearing an off-white ninja costume, and the Konoha forehead was neatly worn on his forehead. Page 52. It's Hinata. Long time no see. After all, he was a teammate who lived and died together, and Saitama greeted him with a smile. The slight smile made everyone who saw him feel warm and kind. Where is Chiyu going? I saw you for the first time today after so many days. Is your injury okay? This time I heard that you were injured more than us that day. Thanks to you, our team all the members survived. Hinata Shu couldn't stop once he opened his mouth. His face was full of admiration for Saitama and the lingering fear of that battle. Mission. Saitama didn't intend to say more, and touched the knife on his waist. The first rule of the ninja is the absolute secrecy of the task. I'm almost healed. How about you? Have you recovered? What about Captain Kawaki and the others? How are you doing? Saitama asked in a friendly manner. Oh, I'm almost fine, and I'm about to join a team to continue the task. As for Captain Xuanmu, I heard from them. It seems that I have applied to return to the village to recuperate. Hinata Shu crossed his hands behind his head, and he relaxed talked to Saitama. Hearing Hinata's answer, the middle-aged ninja appeared in Saitama's mind, with a cautious face and a full desire to survive in the final battle. It's fine to go back to the village. Saitama whispered. Oh, by the way, Zeotoru seems to have started a new mission a long time ago, and I saw it a few days ago. Hinata Tree slapped his head and shouted suddenly. That's okay, let's talk next time. I'll go. Patting Hyugashu's arm, Saitama sped up and left there, heading for the meeting place for the task. Looking at the familiar uncle in front of him, Chiyu realized that the world is still quite small. Moonlight Masano stood in front of Saitama and Sagi, touching the beard that had protruded from his chin for a long time but had no time to trim it. The specific task is already clear. Let's see how our team will act. Before that, Saitama came to the tent belonging to Orochimaru, and together with nearly 20 people, listened to their tasks, and then everyone began to group according to the configuration of the first and second middle schools, and Saitama was assigned to Tsukiko Masano's squad. Our team is all about martial arts, right? This mission still has an advantage for us. Masano Tsukiko looked at the saber on Saitama's waist and the long saber on the back of the ninja named Sagi. Zuamu is a commoner, but his sword skills come from Konoha Ryu, because he is a student of Tsukiko Masano, and he is only 15 or 16 years old. Several people sat together like that, and Ueguang Masano took out a simple map, which only briefly outlined some terrain. Look here. Our team has to go around to the back of Sand Ninja from here. The journey is relatively long. It is the deepest infiltration team, so the danger should be the greatest. Don't pin your hopes on the assistance of other teams. This possibility is very small. The only ones we can rely on in our mission are ourselves. Ueguang Zhengye said earnestly, his tone unprecedentedly serious. Looking around, Tsukiko Masano put away the map and said, "Get ready to go." Saitama nodded. The three quietly left the camp just like that, carrying the necessary supplies. According to Captain Masano's plan, several people need to sneak in from the left side of the Sand Ninja front line. There are stretches of sand dunes, which are suitable for hiding. Similarly, it is also suitable for Sand Ninja ambush. Opportunities and risks exist together. Shu Sha. The figures of the three walked slowly under the night. It happened to be night when they arrived at the dune area from the camp. Captain Masano had already estimated everything, and night was indeed more suitable for sneaking in. Although several of them are ninjas, such sand will leave footprints no matter what. Fortunately, such traces will be covered up quickly by the wind. Be careful, don't be careless. Moonlight Masano gestured, conveying his meaning. With the light of the moon, the two behind them still saw it. The temperature in the desert at night, especially near Cheyenne, is extremely low. The temperature difference between day and night is also huge. Not far from the Saitama team, there is a group of people patrolling, looking at the forehead guards on their foreheads. They are all sand ninja. Captain, I don't know what the higher-ups are thinking. They told us to patrol here. It's miles away from the front line. A man rubbed his hands and kept saying to another man walking in front. The man in front covered half of his face with a half curtain of gray cloth, and his expression was very serious, as if patrolling was his most important thing. This is a Chunin team of sand ninja. There are 4 people in total, all of them are Chunin. Shut up, Konoha's people want to bypass the front line and sneak into our rear. This is an excellent location, patrol well, don't let Konoha's people take advantage of the loophole. The captain scolded the ninja who had been chattering. The team immediately became quiet. On the other side, Saitama and his team narrowly escaped a group of sand ninjas and successfully took a step behind the sand ninjas. The wind and sand kept hitting Saitama's face, and he lay there motionless, like a corpse. Saitama ignored the swaggering scorpion that fell near his nose for a long time, and finally had to crawl away quickly in boredom. There was already a thick layer of yellow sand on his body, and Saitama's eyes were fixed in one direction without moving. The sand ninja who was defeated by Saitama, after being captured, confessed everything he knew, and what Saitama is guarding now is the grain road that sand ninja explained. The wind is blowing loudly. This area already belongs to the hinterland area of sand ninja, and it is full of dangers. A few black shadows appeared in the distance, running fast on the sand, and the wind and sand did not have much effect on them. Shiyu narrowed his eyes and focused more on those figures, as if he wanted to see through the strength of those people. Shu Sha. The figure was getting closer and closer, but Shiyu remained motionless, as if he had turned into a part of the desert. There were a total of 9 people in this group, and the leaders seemed to be 2 jonin. Shiyu knew that his team was completely unsure of keeping these people. Looking towards the opposite side of this sand dune, Saitama found Captain Masano by relying on the location in his memory. I saw Masano pressing down his hand slightly, and then remained motionless. Suppressing his own breath, shrinking his chakra, Saitama tried to minimize his existence. It was already the second day after infiltrating, and the Saitama team only succeeded in an attack on the food delivery team, which was a food delivery team with 1 jonin and 4 chunin. For the supplies in the rear, Sand Shinobi still attaches great importance to it. Every time before, there will be a jounin with him. Until recently, he has been attacked many times. Sandine will randomly send 2 jounin to follow the delivery of supplies. Jnin's combat power is very scarce in this war, and it is impossible to use them all for this kind of thing, and Shiyu and the others are waiting for a food delivery team with only 1 jonin. Sand Shinobi passed not far from Saitama and the others, and headed towards the front line, but did not find the 3 Konohas hiding aside. Ha! About 10 minutes after that group of people passed by, Saitama saw the distant horizon again, and 4 figures began to appear. Could this be the fishing team? Saitama had some ideas in his mind, and the last few people should be the ones who secretly protected him. However, is this too far away? The people in front have passed for so long, and the people behind come out. Continue to be vigilant. Shiyu did not act rashly. Maybe the person in front will kill a carbine. Wait a second, although the few people here look very tempting. Yueguang Zhengye also did not move, quietly observing the development of the situation. Not long after, those figures approached where Saitama was. Captain, it's quite safe here, there's no need to be so careful, said a short-haired ninja. It's better to be careful. The grain transportation team has been attacked many times recently. It seems that they are all from Konoha. Page 53. Okay, there should be no problem here, get ready to go back. The leading ninja waved his hand and greeted. They belong to the special team, responsible for randomly following the food delivery team and providing covert protection. The place where they were standing was less than 50 meters from Saitama, but they didn't notice the person lying there at all. Shiyu stared at these 4 people, 1 jonin and 3 chunin, almost the basic team configuration of Sand Ninja. He glanced at Captain Masano, but Saitama couldn't find him, and his heart tightened. Earth Escape, the art of beheading in the heart. An untouchable voice echoed in this windy and sandy land. What? Before the Sand Ninja and his party could react, one of the chunin was pulled into the sand, and blood soaked the sand immediately. Action! Moonlight Masano's voice resounded in the desert, and Saitama knew there was no need to hide. The electric arc on his body flashed, and Saitama's speed soared, and he rushed towards the group of sand ninjas at a speed comparable to that of a taijutsu jounin. On the other side, Sagi also ran towards a chunin, and his speed was also much faster than that of ordinary chunin. After Moonlight Masano attacked an enemy chunin, his combat strength was already equal, and even Saitama's side had a better chance of winning, so naturally there was no need to continue to be wretched. Ding! Captain Masano slashed at the jounin, but the opponent blocked him with Ku-Wu-Gu. Quick battle and quick decision. After saying this, Masano continued to fight with the jounin. If the jounin battles were not too disparate in combat power, it would usually take a long time to tell the winner. That shinobi Shinakami didn't seem to worry about his side at all, and also fought fiercely with Tsukiko Masano. Stimulating the cells of the whole body with thunder attribute chakra, Saitama rushed to his target in the blink of an eye. The corner of his mouth showed a hint of ferocity. Shiyu kicked his feet, and he jumped up, with his right hand on his waist, and the thunder light appeared on the knife with a single slash. Saitama wanted to quickly finish off his opponent. Boom! The knife failed to kill the sand ninja, and fell on the sand, splashing countless sand. Heh, there really are Konoha's mice. The sand ninja was surprisingly calm. He swayed to avoid Saitama's attack, put his hands on his thighs, sank down, and assumed a defensive posture. It's not a chunin. Saitama looked at the sand ninja in front of him, and instantly knew the inside story. That moment just now was not the reaction a chunin should have. You don't think that there is only one jounin team and you dare to hang behind and secretly protect the food delivery team. Jounin who was fighting Tsukiko Masano said sarcastically, but the movements of his hands did not stop at all. That he was going to drag this Konoha jounin so that the battle over there could be resolved quickly. Sagaki, hurry up and get rid of that brat. Matthew shouted at the ninja who was fighting Saitama. Hey, brat, it's not your fate. Shagaki smiled cruelly, and the breath on his body began to rise. Chiyu was not in a hurry. The chakra on his body also surged, and Goyu appeared in his eyes. Heh, it's still from the Uchiha family. Shigaki was a little surprised when he saw Gotama in Saitama's eyes, and ran towards Saitama unequivocally with a strong wind in his body. Chapter 20. Boom! Sagaki kicked Saitama's knife, and a lightning arc suddenly appeared, and he immediately retracted his legs and stepped back in shock. Saitama didn't pursue either, letting the ninja come and go, but watching his next move. Liang Goyu's Sharingan has already been carried to the limit, just to not miss all the small moves of this sand ninja. Kick! Seeing a small movement under his feet, Saitama no longer waited any longer. An electric arc flashed on his legs, bursting out at a very high speed, and headed towards the ninja named Shigaki. Shwa! Shwa! The right hand kept slashing. The knife in Saitama's hand was like a butterfly wearing flowers, and it was danced extremely sharply. Under the gaze of Saitama's eyes, Sagaki's movements have nothing to hide. He is restrained tightly, and can only keep dodging for a while. On the other side, Zuamu and Captain Masano were also caught in a battle, fighting back and forth with Sand Shinobi, and it was hard to tell the winner for a while. Is this really the strength that a child of this age should have? The more he fought, the more frightened Sagaki became. He was actually suppressed by this kid from Konoha. Kicking out with his left foot, it landed hard on Sagaki's chest. Holding the knife tightly in his right hand, he took the opportunity to stab out, straight for the throat. The tip of the knife was rippling with electric arcs. Dangerous flowers were about to bloom at this moment. Bang! Shigaki's body leaned up following the strength of Saitama's kick, and kicked upwards, just in time to kick the advancing knife, and the direction of the knife was moved upwards, making it deviate from the direction. Then the whole body turned over, and several backflips in a row quickly opened the distance from Saitama. Saitama frowned, and retracted the knife before he could continue chasing. There were several sounds of piercing through the air, and Saitama saw several black shadows shooting from Sagaki's hands. Ding, click left, click right, and you can easily block those hidden weapons with a knife. Shwa! Shwa! Two kunai were shot down and landed on both sides of Katama. The corner of Sagaki's mouth twitched, showing a hint of sarcasm towards Saitama. Hiss! Hiss! It was as if the fuse had been ignited, and the time began to count down. Chiyu glanced at it, saw the two detonating charms entangled with the Kamara just now, and kicked his feet instantly. Boom! The detonating talisman exploded, blowing up countless yellow sands, causing Chiyu to lose his figure. Wind escape big breakthrough. A gust of wind blew away the yellow sand all over the sky in an instant. Where is the person? After using a ninja, Shagaki found that he lost Saitama's figure, and the other party disappeared into the yellow sand all over the sky. Without moving his expression, Sagaki continued to be on guard. It is impossible for the opponent to be killed by the detonation talisman with his own hand. He must be hiding somewhere and preparing for a sneak attack. He took out a handful of kunai from the ninja bag on his butt, and held it behind his right hand, staring at the changes around him. Sand. There was a stream of sand under his feet, carrying the sand wall and heading down. Smiling contemptuously, Sagaki bent his legs, and a large amount of chakra erupted under his feet, giving him an extremely fast instantaneous acceleration. He jumped up and fell towards another sandy place. Shwa! The sound of a sword breaking through the air above his head made Sagaki's scalp tingle. Saitama was right above the sand wall at this time, and a slash with the power of thunder came from top to bottom, heading towards his head. The blade reached Sagaki's head in an instant, and there was not enough time for him to react. Sagaki blocked the kunai in his hand, trying to get away from Saitama's knife. Ding! The knife still came down, but it didn't go as Sagaki wished. The knife was full of the power of thunder, and it slashed down like a bamboo, and kunai was cut in two. Page 54. What? Sagaki didn't expect the power of this knife to be so powerful. Seeing the knife cut through kunai and still coming towards him, he felt a little flustered in his heart. The person is still in mid-air, and Sagaki cannot use force to change his trajectory. Twirling as hard as he could in the air, Sagaki turned his head away and shouldered the attack. Put! A knife slashed at Sagaki's left shoulder, a smile appeared on Katama's face, and he even narrowed his eyes. Just when Saitama was about to continue to launch a second attack, the sand wall that was still in midair suddenly turned into sand, and under the influence of gravity, it fell towards the bottom. This is? Chiyu couldn't believe it, and his heart tightened. He drew the knife to his side, and fell to the side. Before the person landed, Chiyu sensed the danger. A figure emerged from the sand and rushed straight to Saitama, who hadn't landed yet. Bah! Kunai inserted into Saitama's chest, revealing Sagaki's vicious eyes. Bang! Before Sagaki continued to make up the knife, Saitama turned into a puff of white smoke and disappeared from his sight. What? Sagaki couldn't believe it, his body froze. Shwa! The sand under his feet trembled, and Saitama emerged from the sand wall's feet, and the electric arc flashed on his body. Bah! The slash with the power of thunder, when Sagaki couldn't react in time, scratched his abdomen, causing a huge wound, and blood spattered everywhere. Ding! As expected of a jonin, even though he was caught off guard, he still defended in time, a kunai stabbing Saitama with a knife. Ding! Ding! Saitama kept attacking, taking advantage of Sagaki's injury, and constantly exerting his own advantages. Chakra surged in his body, constantly stimulating his whole body. Sagaki was completely suppressed by this blow, and with an extra wound on his body, he was forced to retreat steadily. Fire escape, the art of fireball. Saitama gathered chakra in his throat, where the scorching energy condensed, and as he opened his mouth, a huge fireball spewed out. Put! The scorching flame hit the sand, and the high temperature scorched the yellow sand, leaving a string of marks. Are you okay? The flames dispersed, and Saitama saw another jonin standing next to Sagaki, frowned, and looked at Tsukiko Masano. At this time, Tsukiko Masano stood aside, forming horns with Saitama, surrounding the two jonin together. Oh, I'm sorry, Saitama, I couldn't stop it. Captain Masano looked embarrassed. The same as a jonin, and the other wants to break through. It is still very simple, especially the difference in strength between the two is not big. Goyu shrank around his pupils, but Saitama didn't say anything. His strength was boosted entirely by Sharingan and Lightning Chakra mode. In the previous wave, at the moment when the detonating talisman exploded, Sharingan not only saw Sagaki's mocking smile, but also saw the seal in his hand, the seal of a sand clone. Therefore, with the help of the yellow sand blown up by the detonating talisman, Saitama also formed a shadow clone, separated out a clone, and the main body was hidden under the sand, waiting for the opportunity to move. The wind was blowing constantly, and the yellow sand was undulating among several people. During the flashing of the arc, several people moved at the same time, the figure left a mark on the yellow sand, and the battle continued. Ding! A kunai held Saitama's knife, which was another jonin named Matthew. He increased the output of chakra in his hand, and an electric arc ran towards him along the knife. Saitama's eyes froze, and the knife in his hand squeezed hard towards the ninja, leaving him no time to let go. The arc fell on his body, bringing up a puff of black smoke. Without even frowning, Matthew kicked Saitama's abdomen. Boom! This performance was beyond Chiyu's expectation, and Chiyu shrank back instinctively, but the speed was extremely fast, and he did not completely dodge. A solid foot was imprinted on Saitama's body, and Saitama suddenly had a feeling of being hit by some giant object, and he was kicked back directly. On the other side, seeing Kitama suffer, Masano gave up his opponent, and landed beside Saitama extremely quickly, on guard. Don't be careless. This sand ninja is an earth-done ninja. He has an earth-done ninjutsu. It has high defense and strong attack. One of Masano's words is that the shortcoming of this ninja is speed. Well, I was careless. Saitama scratched the knife on the sand with his right hand, and his eyes stayed on the sand ninja. He saw that Matthew's hand was black and yellow, as if there was an extra layer of armor on his body. It's no wonder that the lightning that I had just now didn't work. Was it blocked by the outer shell? Getting ready, I'm entangled with that to-doin'. Can you take care of the other one first, okay? Tsukiko Masano saw Saitama's strength and was not pretentious. It will take time. Without talking nonsense, Saitama stared at the two sand ninjas in front of him. I'll try my best. The other party's ninjutsu is somewhat restrained. Masano Moonlight said in a low tone. Get ready, go. An arc flashed on the blade, and the chakra in the body began to flow away at a high speed. Saitama and Tsukiko Masano rushed forward, and the two kept exchanging positions on the way forward to confuse the public. Humph. Matthew looked disdainful. For this kind of physical ninja, he felt that he was invincible, and the enemy rarely could really hurt him. Shwa! Chiyu went straight to the sand wall, wrapped in the power of thunder and lightning. He still had some confidence in his own strength. This knife slashed over, but Sagaki was not in vain. He had already figured out Saitama's way, that is, the change of the property of the grenade would make people inadvertently hit the road. Missing the body, Sagaki does not have direct contact with Saitama. When the blade fell to the half-waist position, Saitama turned his hand and continued to swing towards Sagaki's body. Bah! A wound was left, but Saitama ignored it and continued to attack. On the other side, Uegwang Masano and Matthew also fought together. Boy, you underestimate me so much. Shigaki knew that Matthew beside him could not help him, and seemed to have made up his mind, wiped the wound that had just been cut, and bit his lip. Why do you say that? Is Sandyin's Jonin this powerful? Saitama taunted ruthlessly, and kept moving his hands. In fact, it can't be blamed that Sagaki's strength is too poor. His strength does have a lot of moisture. Due to the scarcity of high-end combat power in the war years, Sagaki, a ninja between the middle ninja and the upper ninja, sometimes needs to. He was directly awarded the title of Jonin. Continuing to drag on is not good for Saitama's team. He doesn't know if there will be support, so he chooses to make a quick decision. Hanging the knife on his waist, Saitama took a breath. Ha! The suffocating intensive attack suddenly stopped, and Sagaki didn't react for a while. The expression was a bit strange, but when he saw Saitama put away the knife and his hands began to seal, his heart tightened. With both hands making a seal, the eyes of the Sharingan can't stop shrinking, the chakra of the body disappears, and Saitama looks at Sagaki. Magic, the art of Gahang. After a burst of energy, the ninjutsu was activated. What is this? Sha Yuan froze and found himself unable to move. Page 55. Fixed body technique? Shagaki showed a little doubt. This kind of body fix technique has never been encountered before, but it is still a kind of illusion. The chakra in the body began to circulate in different routes, trying to use the chakra of chaos to break through this ninjutsu. It's a waste of effort. Saitama touched his waist again, and the electric arc flickered again. Kick! As soon as his footsteps moved, he came in front of Sha Yuan with thunder and lightning. How is it possible? Sha Yuan looked puzzled. His method of breaking the illusion was useless. He still couldn't move. Seeing that Saitama's sword has arrived, he seems to be powerless. Shoo! Saitama's face was cold as the knife was inserted into his body. This is the illusion of the Uchiha family. It is activated using Sharingan. How can it be cracked by ordinary methods? Continue to increase the transmission of chakra, and the arc on the knife will be strengthened. Ah! The soaring electric arc brought Shigaki Electric back to life, and the last vitality was also cut off. Put! Pulling out the knife, Saitama pushed towards the sand wall, and at the moment when his body was about to reach the bottom, the knife continued to swipe in his hand, leaving a thin line in his throat, and the blood rushed out like a reservoir with an open gate. Out! Ho ho! Clutching his throat, Sha Yuan fell to the ground, completely out of breath. Captain, wait a little longer. Saitama didn't go directly to help Masano, but saw Sagi over there. The battlefield on Sagi's side is a certain distance away from Saitama's side, but Sagi is now completely below. Although he is tightly wrapped around the enemy, there are countless scars on his body, big and small, shallow and deep. Zuomu looked at the enemy in front of him. His attack rhythm was completely disrupted, and now he could only be passively beaten. Fortunately, the teacher's side is almost over. Looking at the side, Zuomu had the strength to fight again. He decided not to hold back, and would hang around this Chunin to the death. Swinging the knife, Sagi slashed towards the right side of the enemy, trying to make him show his flaws. Boom! It was another kick. Sagi was kicked flying before he even had a knife. Put! A mouthful of blood was spurted out, and Zuomu's face turned pale, and the breath he had been holding before disappeared in an instant. As soon as his momentum weakened, Zuomu began to sink down, completely losing the strength to stand up again. Go to hell, Konoha's ninja! Seeing Sagi lying on the sand as if resigned to his fate, Sand Ninja also cruelly erected kunai. Shwa! There was a sound of breaking through the air, and Zuomu's eyes, which had been vacant just now, opened suddenly, and his hand grasping the ground suddenly grabbed a handful of sand. Ha! Sand Shinobi was a little strange. Just as he was about to turn around, a knife passed through his back. The little character must make up his mind to die early. Saitama looked impatient, and drew out the sword with lightning flashing. Hide aside and rest, recover, I'll help the captain. Saitama said to Sagi, who was lying down, with solemn eyes. The battle of Yueguang Zhenye over there has entered into heat tracing, and his attack can't cause much damage to Matthew. On the contrary, the enemy's blow from time to time will make Yueguang Zhenye feel uncomfortable for a while. Chapter 21 Thunder Escape. Ninja of Konoha, don't waste your energy, your attack is just tickling in front of me. Matthew taunted, his body still maintained a defensive posture. A battle with Yen Ninja gave him the technique of Earth Dungeon Earth Spear. Since then, he has guaranteed both offensive and defensive ends, and has gained a certain reputation in the Sand Ninja Circle. The characteristic of this ninjutsu is that it can harden the skin, whether it is offensive or defensive. It is of an extremely high level. Blocking Moonlight Masano's knife with his hand again, Matthew grabbed his knife with his bare hands. Boom! With one punch, Matthew hit Yueguang Zhenye's chest, sending him flying backwards. Put! There was another mouthful of blood, and Masano felt that his body was about to fall apart. Shwa! The knife that was just taken away was thrown towards the chest with malice in it. Moonlight Masano's pupils shrank, revealing a trace of helplessness. Kick! With a kick, a big hole was created in the sand. The moonlight was shining, and the figure jumped to avoid the extremely fast knife. As soon as it landed, one foot came forward again, straight to the abdomen. Pull out a handful of kunai, hold it with both hands, tense the muscles of the arm, and press down on that foot. Ding! Kunai collided with a hard object, and a huge force surged in. Moonlight Jinya's kunai almost let go, and his body was repelled again. Moonlight Masano felt the difference in strength. Although he was also a jonin, the restraint of his ability made him fight like a fool. None of his skills could break the defense and cause substantial damage. Standing still, focused and vigilant, Tsukiko Masano found that San Shinobi did not attack immediately. Just as he was wondering, a scream sounded in his ears, and from the corner of his eye, Saitama was pulling his sword out of his opponent's body. Overjoyed, Moonlight Masano saw the hope of victory in this battle, and at the same time was a little surprised. He thought Saitama had the strength of a chunin, but he didn't expect to kill a jonin immediately and quickly. Knowing the situation, Tsukiko Masano knew that his current role was to restrain the jonin in front of him and wait for Saitama to come to help, or choose to approach Saitama and take the initiative to seek Saitama's help. After all, he can't deal with the enemy in front of him at all. On the other hand, Matthew had a wave of anger on his face, but there was no surprising anger. He remained calm and turned his eyes back, staring at Yueguang Zhengye. Trash. Even a brat can't solve it. Matthew cursed in a low voice, and then looked at Yueguang Zhengye, who was still in a defensive posture, with gloomy eyes. Take your knife, and then deal with that kid. With a ferocious tone, Matthew felt that he had to fight quickly, and he couldn't give the opponent a chance to kill him. Even if he had confidence in his ninjutsu, it was completely unnecessary. With a punch, the air began to whoosh. Before he was hit, Masano Tsukiko's face felt a bit sharp, as if walking in the cold wind with his head shaved in the cold winter. Yueguang Zhengye knew that he couldn't hide, so he put his hands together to protect his face. Not only that, he kept stepping back, unwilling to collide with Matthew. Using the Earth Spear technique, the caster's speed would indeed be affected, but Moonlight Zhengye had been hit by Matthew several times by surprise, and was affected to a certain extent, and his speed no longer had an advantage. Boom! The punch finally landed on Yueguang Masano. Crack! Yueguang Zhengye seemed to hear the sound of his own bones. If it wasn't for the large amount of chakra that had gathered in his arms just now, the solution just now would not be so simple. Matthew also looked at Moonlight Masano with doubts. Just now, he attacked with anger. He shouldn't be followed by Konoha's ninjas so easily. It didn't have the desired effect. Matthew raised his hand, ready for the next attack. He has confidence in himself, and next time he will definitely be able to make Konoha's guy unable to eat. The color of the skin on the hands became darker, and the lines of the meridians on Matthew's arms began to become clear. Ding! A knife appeared on Matthew's left, but he seemed to have expected it, and held it with both hands. Page 56. Saitama looked at the caught knife and increased the chakra in his hand, and the thunder and lightning began to rage, passing directly along the contact point. Crackling! The electric arc flickered on Matthew's body, and his clothes began to show a trace of scorched black, but he seemed to be completely fine and still held Saitama's knife vigorously. Boom! Chakra stimulated the leg cells, making Saitama feel the explosion of his muscles, and he kicked Matthew, taking the important parts straight. Matthew also kicked and collided with Katama at the same time. Both of them snorted secretly. Katama drew his sword, and quickly retreated to the side of Moonlight Masano. All the movements are incomparable in a row, and it only takes a few seconds in total, and Matthew took a step back after being hit by this blow, and the electric shock effect appeared on his legs, which were scorched black. Humph! Kid, you're looking for death. Matthew looked at the two people standing not far away, and said to Chiyu, who had just appeared. Captain, is it all right? Saitama looked at the slightly miserable Moonlight Masano in front of him, a little hesitant to make up his mind. Is this sand ninja so strong already? As a jounin, Tsukiko Masano didn't get any benefits. Now the chakra on my body is not enough after a battle, so I have to retreat temporarily if I can't fight. There is only one person on the other side, so I probably won't continue to chase. It's okay, it's just a small injury. Let's try it together. Moonlight Masano did not admit defeat, and the injury on his body was indeed nothing serious. Bah! Pulling out the saber from the sand, Tsukiko Masano squinted his eyes. The atmosphere became tense just right, and the yellow sand dancing in the wind undulated between the three of them. Bang! With a step on his foot, Saitama took the lead in attacking, holding the knife in his waist. Not to be outdone, Moonlight Masano followed closely behind Saitama, his figure standing behind Saitama, appearing and disappearing from time to time. Good time. Matthew was unrestrained, and the anger in his heart seemed to be washed away by the upcoming battle. Striding towards Saitama and the two, Matthew turned his chakra to the extreme, and the wholesale color on his body became deeper, showing a stake close to a black rock. Ding! The ninja knife flashing with an electric arc was blocked by Matthew with his left arm, and then his right hand clenched into a fist and blasted towards Saitama brazenly, but Chiyu was not fighting alone. Before the punch landed on Chiyu's chest, a figure rose from behind him. Konoha Ryuhai Moon Slash. Passing behind Saitama, Tsukiko Masano used his powerful sword skill. The two chakra condensed cross slashes turned into separated energy and flew towards Matthew's head at an extremely fast speed. Seeing such skills, Matthew didn't dare to be sloppy. Although he practiced the technique of Earth Spear, his head was still relatively fragile. So, the right hand that had just been blasted out hastily retracted, and cooperated with the left hand to protect the forehead. Saitama took advantage of the situation and retreated. He didn't want to be accidentally injured by Tsukiko Masano's attack. Boom! The moment the two chakra energies touched Matthew's arms, they exploded like bombs. The power is like several detonating symbols exploding together. Moonlight Masano gasped and landed on Saitama's left, staring at the place of the explosion with serious eyes. Just now, his chakra consumption was still quite high, and now the chakra in his body has been exhausted, which is why he has not used Sun Moon Slash. It consumes too much mana. Ah! Matthew was directly concentrated by this blow, and screams came from the yellow sand flying all over the sky. This blow should be enough for him. Just use both hands to catch it, and you won't die or be disabled. Moonlight Masano said in an affirmative tone, showing his confidence in his attack just now. Having said that, the two of them still did not relax their vigilance towards the surroundings, and kept looking at the place where the enemy was standing. Ho! 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 The yellow sand quickly dispersed, revealing Matthew's figure. Boom! Without waiting for Saitama and the two to take a closer look, Matthew rushed over. The wind was torn apart by his advancing steps, and there was a sound of breaking through the air. Get away! X2. Saitama and Tsukiko Masano reminded each other the moment Matthew started, and at the same time kicked their feet and jumped into the distance. Tick! Tick! After missing a hit, Matthew stopped attacking and stood still, following Saitama's gaze. There were huge gaps in both Matthew's arms, and the blood kept dripping from the arms onto the sand, dyeing the yellow sand a dark color, and spreading downwards. You guys really pissed me off. Matthew looked at the two people a few meters away, and his eyes stayed on Yue Guang Zhenye for a long time. If it weren't for the ninjutsu of this Konoha ninja, I wouldn't be in such a mess. Panting heavily, and the sound of ho-ho kept ringing in his throat, Matthew felt that his chakra had also reached a critical point, and he kept the soil spear ninjutsu activated. Even though the ninjutsu consumed less than the consumption of other ninjutsu can be said to be very little, but the battle has continued until now, and the time is not short. We must get rid of them quickly. If it doesn't work, retreat first. This is the territory of our sand ninjas. I'm not afraid they will continue to chase. With a certain mind, Matthew decided to launch the last attack, and if he couldn't, retreat and seek support. The arms that were still dripping with blood began to harden, and the blood from the wound stopped after a while. Captain, buy me some time. Saitama looked at the enemy, who was injured but still energetic, and said to Tsukiko Masano. After finishing speaking, she leaned towards his back, hiding her figure behind Yue Guang Masano. Frowning, Moonlight Masano did not refute. The second rule of the ninja is to trust his teammates. It seems that I can only use that one, but when I run out, I can only rely on Saitama. Thinking in his heart, Yue Guang Zhenye raised the knife horizontally and pointed at Matthew. Boom! Holding the knife, Yue Guang Zhenye charged straight at the enemy, and slashed several slashes with the knife in his hand. Konoha Ryu Mikazuki no Mai. The figure quickly approached Sand Shinobi, and Tsukiko Masano used his profound sword skills. Ha! Matthew, who was waiting for the battle, showed a bit of astonishment. 3 moonlight figures appeared in his eyes, and he couldn't tell who was real and who was fake. A trace of cold sweat appeared on his forehead, and Matthew felt nervous. Second body? Go to hell. Matthew, who didn't have Bai Yen and Sharingan, couldn't tell which one was the real body. Chakra circulated in Matthew's body, the colors of his fists became deeper, and a trace of light began to appear. With a kick, Matthew rushed to the three clones of Yue Guang Zhengye. Boom! 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 All three punches hit the sand, blasting out several huge bunkers. This is? Matthew had a bad premonition. Just in order to be able to hit him at the moment when Yue Guang Zhengye couldn't react, he exploded at a very high speed regardless of physical damage, and punched 3 times. Unexpectedly they all fell through? Glancing at Tsukiko Masano, who rushed out, Saitama concentrated on the work in his hand. Ever since he knew his own attributes, he has not given up on exercising the changes in his chakra nature. Before coming to the front line, Saitama initially grasped the changes in the nature of the thunder attribute chakra, so there is the current arc on the knife, but now, at the end of the battle, the enemy's defense is too strong, so I have to start trying a ninjutsu. Thunder Dunshidori. Compress the thunder attribute chakra in his hand, so that it can cause damage at the moment of rushing in. No longer watching the battle of Moonlight Masano, Saitama began to gather chakra. At first, a trace of electric arc wandered in the right hand, and with Saitama's deliberate control, the thunder attribute chakras all over the body began to gather in the hand. Hiss! Hiss! The voice gradually became louder, and more electric arcs gathered in his hands, and in a blink of an eye, they gathered into a thunderbolt, thunderbolts emitting dazzling white light. It's all fake? Seeing that he failed to hit the real master with 3 attacks, Matthew's heart tightened for a moment. Die! A roar came from above, and Yue Guang Zhengye descended from the sky, slashing down with the knife in his hand. Page 57. Shoo! With a strong anger, Yue Guang Masano struck Matthew's neck with this blow. Suddenly, a cut was cut open, and blood flowed out along the wound, but this blow did not cause much damage to the enemy. Go to hell! Matthew was completely enraged, and at the moment Yue Guang Masano slashed at him, he punched him hard in the abdomen. Put! While the person was still in the air, blood spurted out directly. Yue Guang Masano's face became even uglier, and his lips began to turn pale. After a hit, Matthew didn't care about the wound on his neck, and strode towards Masayoshi Moonlight, trying to kill Konoha's ninja to avoid future troubles. Hiss! As soon as the legs were stepped out, the sound of thunder and lightning neighed from behind his head. Matthew's scalp went numb, and he gave up chasing in an instant, and turned around. Death! With a low voice, he thrust his hand straight at the enemy in front of him. Shiyu felt that this time it should be a lore. Put! Blood splattered everywhere, and Saitama's hand was inserted into a warm place relying on Chidori's penetrating power. How come? Matthew couldn't believe it, and looked down at the hand at the heart. It was Saitama's hand. Shoo! In order to prevent the enemy from having enough strength, Saitama increased the chakra transmission in his hand, and suddenly, the lightning flashed on Matthew's chest for a second time, making him no longer able to speak, and his eyes were fixed like that. Staring at Saitama, he lost his breath. On one side, Tsukiko Masano, who was lying on the ground, watched all of Saitama's performances with a shocked expression. If he was not mistaken, the ninjutsu just now was developed by the kid from the Hatake family who was known as the strongest graduate before, Lei Dun Chidori. But how could Uchiha Saitama? Could it be that the brain circuits of geniuses are all interconnected? Yue Guang Zhengye didn't plan to continue thinking if he couldn't figure it out. He clutched his chest and lay flat on the sand. Teacher! Zuomu, who was hiding in the distance, saw the end of the battle, dragged his tired and injured body to the side of Yue Guang Masano, and supported Yue Guang Masano. It's okay, I'm just out of strength. Moonlight Masano waved his hand as he looked at the disciple in front of him. Chapter 22. Hey, Saitama, are you okay? Tsukiko Masano leaned against Sagi, with a happy tone in his tone. Well, it's okay. Matthew half-kneeled in front of Chiyu, and the hand that had been inserted into the enemy's heart had already been withdrawn. Chiyu also supported the enemy's head, panting heavily. Go to another place to rest first. Moonlight Masano took a rest, then stood up, and said to the two of them. Today, all 3 members of the team are more or less injured, and the least injured may be Saitama. If you encounter Sand Ninja's troops again now, it may be a situation of complete annihilation. Well, go to the oasis over there, there is a water source over there. Saitama nodded, and took the lead to go in one direction. Tsukiko Masano and Sagi followed without talking nonsense. After this battle, Saitama also established his own personality. Once a person becomes strong, he will naturally gain the trust and respect of others. The battlefield wasn't cleaned too much, and a few people replenished some ninja tools from the dead sand ninjas, and then left. As for Bingliangwen, with a cautious attitude, Saitama and the others did not move. It is better to touch the enemy's things less. The injuries on Uegwang Masano's body were not serious, and they did not hinder the actions of the few people. Before night fell, they arrived at an oasis. "Samu, you guys stay here first, I'll go take a look," Saitama said in a low voice after glancing at Tsukiko Masano, who hadn't come out of exhaustion and chakra depletion, and Sagi, who was supporting Tsukiko Masano. The chakra in Saitama's body has recovered to a good extent, and some minor injuries have disappeared, and the state is almost % of its full state. The task of investigation naturally falls on Saitama. This oasis is not big, only about a few hectares in size, but all oases are treasures and strategic resources in Shine. Taking advantage of the darkness, Saitama approached the dark place step by step. His footsteps kept changing, and his advancing figure was like a snake, maintaining the route of S. According to Saitama's understanding here, there should be no sand ninja, but all precautions are king, especially the team now has two companions who can't exert their combat power. Looking across the oasis, Saitama didn't make a sound, and kept changing his footsteps on the trees, jumping from one tree to another. The trees in this oasis are not as towering as those in the Land of Fire, they are less than 10 meters long, but they can grow so tall in this desert. I have to sigh the power of life. It didn't take long for Saitama to walk around the entire oasis, and found nothing unusual, so he went back and informed the other two members of the team who were still waiting outside. "It's safe, let's go in." Leaving the oasis and arriving at the agreed place, Saitama found Tsukiko Masano and Sagi. "Thank you," Moonlight Masano said embarrassedly. As the captain, he is now being taken care of by a member of his own team. The other party is just a child who has just graduated from ninja school for less than a year. "Yeah." An inaudible reply. Shiyu walked ahead and led the way. On the way to investigate just now, he found a place suitable for resting. It was a green space with lush trees, and there was a water pool not far away. The three members of the team spent 2 days in this oasis like this. They were not seriously injured. Tsukiko Masano and Sagi had almost recovered their combat effectiveness, and the ninja's resilience was still good. After staying here for so long, it's time to go out and continue the mission, Moonlight Masano said to the two who were a few meters away, leaning against a tree. At this time, Sagi was seriously cleaning his ninja sword, while Saitama was sitting cross-legged on a sandstone, with the sword resting on his legs. The task time is 10 days, almost 5 days have passed, the captain has recovered, we can go out and continue to find something for the sand ninja. These 2 days, there are also ninjas who came to this oasis to investigate, but they didn't notice with Saitama's team. It's impossible for Sand Shinobi to send out all their strength to find the Konoha ninja who sneaked into the rear. The most important thing is the battle on the front line. The bones of the body are almost rusted. In the last few days, let's rush to the target of the mission. Moonlight Masano stretched his arms, shook his head, and the knife was shining brightly behind his back. Matthew just died like that. Konoha's ninjas are so scary? This is a meeting room in Hidden Sand Village, and the people sitting here are some senior high-ranking Hidden Sands, and the person who is talking is an old man. This is still where our sand ninjas are. Finally, the old man knocked on the table with his hand. Judging from the scene, it's a thunder-done ninja. That kind of lethality is not the known Konoha ninja. With a low tone, a relatively young man in his 40s continued, his face very gloomy. Find a way to find them and leave them in the desert. Another old female voice came, full of murderous intent. No one can leave the people who killed us in Sand Ninja's territory intact. After the middle-aged man finished speaking, he walked out of the room, leaving behind a few high-level people who couldn't see their faces clearly. Which one is this? Tsukiko Masano cut down the last enemy, turned his head and said to Saitama, who was standing not far away, stepping on the corpse of a sand ninja. This is the third team today. It seems that Sand Ninja can no longer tolerate us and has begun to send people to surround us. Pulling out the knife from the enemy's body, Sagi smiled slightly, his face stained with blood. After a few days of fighting, Zuomu began to grow, and he was able to quickly deal with ordinary Chunin. Sure enough, the battlefield is the best place to hone a person. Only between life and death can a person truly grow. This is the fourth day after several members of the Saitama team came out of the oasis. They decided to leave today and return to Konoha. Over the past few days, relying on their extremely strong combat effectiveness and high mobility, Saitama and the others stalked behind San Shinobi and helped Sannin find a lot of things to do. Because of this, San Shinobi kept coming to Saitama and the others, but the difference in strength was too great, and it could only be regarded as a sheep entering the tiger's mouth. The desert is so vast, Sagakushi can only cast a wide net, but the strength of each team is uneven, and it is almost impossible to win against Saitama's team with the strength of a double-handed ninja. Page 58. Let's retreat. If we continue, San Shinobi will send the main force from the front line to chase us. Tsukiko Masano said seriously. He was afraid that Saitama would get on top and refuse to leave, so he reminded him. Then let's leave, go back and hand in the mission. Saitama also readily agreed. It is really not a wise choice to continue behind the enemy lines. It's time to retreat. Go back the same way. Be careful. Moonlight Masano nodded. Zuomu basically had no say in such matters. As the lower limit of the team's strength, he could only follow the other two teammates. The yellow sand filled the air, and the hot wind was blowing on the desert. Running in such an environment, the scorching temperature made everyone sweat profusely. Ahead is the sand dune from when we came here. If you pass over it, you will be able to reach the range of Shiin's strength. Zuomu wiped the sweat from his forehead with a relaxed tone. Along the way, the sand ninja seemed to have given up on looking for these infiltrating Konoha ninjas, but they didn't meet a group of sand ninjas. Be careful, Zuomu. Moonlight Masano said, seeing Zuomu's attitude. He was a little dissatisfied. Then he looked at Saitama, who was on the sidelines with a vigilant face. Wait a minute. Saitama didn't seem to hear the conversation between the two, and waved his hand to stop them. Sensitive to chakra, Saitama vaguely felt the chakra not far away. Tsukiko Masano and Sagi stopped in time and looked at Saitama solemnly. There is a problem ahead. I hope my perception is wrong. Saitama stared into the eyes of the two and smiled wryly. Could it be someone from Sand Ninja's side who was patrolling? Didn't you meet them when you came here? Zuomu thought optimistically, and then expressed his opinion. Moonlight Masano didn't speak, and his trust in Saitama let him know that what Saitama said was abnormal must not be a simple matter, but he hoped that the front was not what he thought. Keep going, pay attention to concealment. With a deep voice, Yueguang Junya looked into the distance. It was a sand dune that looked normal. The terrain was higher than where he was. Due to the situation, his team did not have scout ninjas. Yeah. Saitama lowered his head and touched half of his waist with his hand. He was prepared for the worst. Several people headed forward. It was already around 6 o'clock in the afternoon, night was about to fall, and the sky began to darken. Such an environment is more suitable for a few people to slip away from behind enemy lines. Shwa! A handful of kunai was thrown and landed at the feet of Yueguang Masano in the front. The few people who had been on guard stopped at the same time, took a defensive posture, looked at the position where kunai shot, and their hearts began to sink. Ninja of Konoha, you don't need to go back when you come, stay in this desert. An indifferent male voice sounded, and then several figures appeared in front of you. With Carrot's perception, Saitama knows that neither is weak. Rush out. Tsukiko Masano turned his head away and said to Saitama and Sagi, the current situation cannot be delayed, there is only one possibility of being entangled here. After all, the frontline troops of Sand Ninja are not very far away from here. I'll take the lead first, Captain, you cover me, Sagi, you hide behind. Saitama held the knife in his hand and said in a low voice, among the few, he has the most lethality and the fastest speed, suitable for rushing ahead and tearing apart the enemy's defenses. Well, get ready. Moonlight Masano also wiped his ninja sword with a serious expression. Sagi on the side also understood the current situation, said nothing, and took the knife in his hand. I'm going, said a low voice from Saitama's mouth. he moved his feet, and the thunder flashed on his body, and he went towards the enemy in the distance. Thunder? The ninja who led Sand Ninja narrowed his eyes. It was stated in the information that there is a chakra ninja with thunder attribute. I hope to pay more attention to it and keep him. That's the ninja in the information, right? Or a brat? Fujiwara said to Bai Rin and Dwelu, who were standing on both sides of him. He not only had 3 jounin, but also 4 chunin on his side. Konoha's people ran away. It should be. It said in the mission that it doesn't matter whether he lives or dies, we have to leave him in the desert anyway. Bai Rin on the left said with a cruel look on his face, looking at Saitama who was running towards them. I'll take care of that brat, and the rest of you can figure it out. Fujiwara jumped off the sand dune and rushed towards Saitama, and the others followed behind him, also heading towards Saitama and his party. Fire escape impatience flower claw red. Spray out the hot chakra in the throat, at the same time, take out nearly 10 shurikens from the thighs, cooperate with ninjutsu, the shurikens with flames in a kind of with a strange momentum, he shot towards the sand ninja in front of him. Scatter! With a kick of Fujiwara's footsteps, the figure disappeared from the front of Saitama and fell to the left. The other ninjas also reacted in time and avoided the side, but some people still failed to react and fell among the last 2. Shinobu opened the direct fire, but was hit by the shuriken in the fire, and his skin was torn apart instantly, and he fell into a state of serious injury. As soon as he took a shot, he eliminated a few combat powers. Saitama did not stop, and continued to move forward, while Fuji-Yuan frowned, and glanced at his companion who was hit behind. With such a lesson, Sand Shinobi began to change positions, scattered around Saitama and his party. Ding! With a knife slashing at the ninja's kunai in front of him, the thunder and lightning were about to pass along the kunai in an instant, but the enemy would separate as soon as he stuck, so he didn't continue to entangle him. Boy of Konoha, I'm not that stupid. Fujiwara said coldly. Kunai was held in his hand, glowing with a faint blue light. Saitama frowned. Sand Shinobi had grasped his information so quickly. Boom! Tsukiko Masano stopped the 2 sand ninjas, but was suppressed uncomfortably. The situation of Zuamu was also the same. He ran into 2 ninjas who were about the same strength as him, and was beaten back step by step, barely supporting himself. Boy, take care of yourself. A gust of wind rushed towards Saitama. Fujiwara abandoned kunai, and approached Saitama with his fist, reaching his face in an instant. Shwa! Saitama swung the knife upwards, and Chiyu stepped back. Fujiwara was forced to hold back, but then kicked out at an extremely fast speed. Boom! Saitama paid the price for his distraction during the fight, kicking firmly in his chest. A long mark was drawn on the sand, and Saitama was kicked flying while gliding. Why, that's it. Fujiwara tried to stimulate Chiyu with words. After all, Chiyu was just a half-grown kid. Ha! With a hand on his chest, Chiyu narrowed his eyes, revealing 2 round eyes of Sharingan. Uchiha's little ghost, so it's just like that. Fujiwara saw Sharingan, and he recognized it at a glance after being well informed and having fought against Uchiha. The intelligence did not say that this kid belongs to the Uchiha family, so it seems that you can't be careless. Fujiwara's heart was not as arrogant as his words, and he silently raised his vigilance. Put! Chakra exploded on the soles of his feet. Saitama gained a speed bonus, and rushed towards the enemy not far away very quickly. He had to deal with it quickly before helping his companions, otherwise, this time it would be dangerous. Ding! Even at such a fast speed, the enemy still blocked Saitama's attack. Saitama narrowed his eyes, as if he had met his opponent. The enemy is also an extremely fast ninja. His speed just now has reached the peak of an instant burst, but he was still caught up by the enemy and successfully caught the slash. The moment Kuwaga blocked the knife, he kicked it again. Chiyu's face changed, and the electric arc flashed on his body. Chakra stimulated the cells again, and took a step back. His face was a little abnormal. Saitama knew that this would be a hard fight. I can only hope that Captain Moonlight Masano and Sagi can hold on for a while or explode the seeds. The electric arc flashed on the knife, and Chiyu was uncertain. If the enemy can explode at such an extremely fast speed, then I will increase the stimulation of Chakra to see if he can still keep up. Even if he can keep up, he probably won't be able to judge the kind case of attack. Determined to pay attention, Saitama kicked his right foot so hard that it sank into the sand. Chapter 23 Fight to the Death. Bang! The sand was stepped out of a huge pit, and Saitama rushed towards Fujiwara like a thunderbolt, drawing a blue-white shadow under the night. Page 59. Shwa! The knife slashed the air, and the space seemed to be cut, and the electric arc crackled and creaked in the air. Boom! Fujiwara's punch also missed, and it hit the sand firmly, leaving a hole, and the yellow sand was scattered into the air. Hey, it's pretty good. Fujiwara sneered, and looked at Chiyu from afar. Fire escape, the art of fireball. Ninja imprints were formed instantly, and Saitama sprayed out a big fireball. The fire escape with especially increased chakra output quickly approached Fujiwara on the desert, and the scorching flames instantly reached the enemy. Humph! Fujiwara dismissed such an attack, his speed could completely ignore such ninjutsu, and with a kick of his legs, he staggered away from the fireball. Ha! Before the person landed, Fujiwara felt an unusual smell. Squeak! Like thousands of birds chirping, a very strong white light appeared in Fujiwara's eyes, piercing directly into his chest. Life and death were in an instant. Ah! Fujiwara roared, and the chakras in his whole body were running crazily. Airflow appeared around his body, and the speed of lateral movement accelerated again. Seeing the enemy's explosion, Sharingan instantly predicts the enemy's trajectory, and moves with the right hand to accurately find the enemy's chest. Put! Saitama's right hand still directly rubbed against the enemy's left waist, leaving only a deep wound on the enemy's body. What's going on? Chiyu was a little puzzled. He clearly judged the enemy's movement trajectory, so why didn't he hit it? Thinking about it, Saitama was ready to strike again, giving the enemy a fatal blow. Shwa! There was a piercing sound, and a ninja who had fought Tsukiko Masano came to help, and kicked Saitama, forcefully forcing him back. Wiping his face to avoid the blow, Saitama did 2 backflips in a row, opening the distance. It's okay. Yueguang Zhengye also came to the side, with some wounds on his body, but his complexion is still good. Well, it's okay. Saitama looked at the 3 sand ninjas standing together and frowned. Put! Zuamu was besieged by 2 ninjas, one of them was accidentally injured, and barely escaped an attack. Zuamu wiped the blood from his mouth. Zuamu glanced at the battle on the other side, knowing that he could only hold on by himself now. Filled with fighting spirit again, Zuamu clenched the knife in his hand and rushed towards the enemy with a roar. Only by continuing to persevere can he survive. Fujiwara was hit by Saitama's unexpected blow. Although he missed the vital point, he still lost most of his combat power. His body became weak for a while, and the wound was charred black by lightning, but the blood still couldn't stop flowing down. Holding the wound with his hands, the surrounding muscles tensed up. Fujiwara could only use this method to relieve the pain. There were 2 companions standing beside him, and Fujiwara's face turned blue and white. What's the matter, Fujiwara? Byron asked. He was a sand ninja with a sickle, and the weapon was placed in front of him. I'm careless, I may have to work hard for you next time, I'll stand by. Fujiwara endured the severe pain, his eyes fixed on Saitama. Be careful with that kid's speed in Thunder Dun. Fujiwara added at the end. Duo Lu and Byron nodded solemnly. The next battle is indeed a bit difficult. The 2 of them had failed to siege Moonlight Masano before, and now they need to add another seemingly stronger Saitama, and the 2 of them have no bottom in their hearts. Hiss! The electric arc bloomed, and Saitama and Tsukiko Masano ran over from left to right. With dexterous steps, Saitama severely wounded a jonin, breaking the battle, and the 2 wanted to take this opportunity to completely change the situation. With a sword drawn, Saitama slashed at the ninja using the sickle. Ding! The scythe blocked the way forward, and Saitama's slash had no effect. Hiss! The electric current exploded and passed along the ninja knife to the sickle. Bang! Enduring the electric current, Byron kicked out, kicked on the sickle, kicked the sickle directly, and swung the lower part towards Saitama. Shwa! Saitama was forced to withdraw his sword by waving the sickle upwards. At the same time, the momentum of the sickle continued to smear Chiyu's face, so he had to give up the attack and backed away. On the other hand, Tsukiko Masano continued to fight with Duolu. Fujiwara covered his wound and retreated as early as the moment Saitama and the two rushed over. If it was not necessary, he did not intend to make another shot. The waist injury let his strength play. He can't make a three-pointer, and the fierce battle will intensify his wounds. Hiss! Shiyu felt the burning pain on his face, but he didn't dare to take care of the enemy. He. Kid. Seeing that he had scratched Shiyu's face just now, Byron showed a sinister smile, picked up the sickle and rushed towards him. The sickle slashed down from top to bottom, with a faint light on the blade. Boom! Cut to where Saitama was standing, leaving a huge bunker. Kick! With one kick, Saitama kicked on the enemy's weapon with his right foot, and then climbed up, surpassing Hayakuba's head instantly. Shwa! The man turned over the enemy in midair. Shiyu stabbed out with a knife, and the blade hit Tianlingai directly. Ding! The scythe caught up with Chiyu's speed, and opened it with a wave of his hand, and Chiyu was also beaten aside with this blow. Go to hell! Jonin's fighting rhythm was so fast that before Saitama could stand still, the scythe slashed towards Saitama's chest again with the sound of piercing through the air. Kick! Saitama continued to retreat. People with such weapons are really difficult to deal with such an exaggerated weapon. The killing area is too huge when wielded, and it takes too much energy to fight. Saitama kept flashing, dodging the enemy's attack everywhere. Although the enemy's attack is sharp, such an attack is very strenuous. Saitama tried to use this method to consume the enemy's physical strength. Ho ho, boy, who do you think is a fool? Swinging the sickle again, Byron forced Saitama to jump on his hind legs, with a look of relief on his face. Ha! Saitama was a little puzzled. The enemy seemed to know his intentions, and that's right, such a trick was really child's play in front of Jonin. Electric arcs flashed on his body, and since Chiyu knew that the enemy had figured out his intentions, he didn't plan to continue. Haven't you noticed yet? With a hint of teasing, Hayakuren put his scythe on his shoulder, and kept his eyes on Saitama. Saitama frowned, noticing that the situation was abnormal. He clenched the knife in his hand, the arc surged, and he was ready to attack. Kick! A big hole exploded in the sand, and Saitama swung his sword and rushed towards the enemy. This is it. Before he took 2 steps, Saitama noticed something unusual. His chakra stopped running a bit, and the tingling feeling spread throughout his body as the chakra continued to run. Shwa! Inserting the knife into the sand, Saitama held the handle of the knife and stared at Byron. When? Saitama slowly slowed down the movement of chakra, and the tingling sensation in his body slowed down instantly. You think I don't know that you're consuming me? I've been asking you to keep the chakra running, so that my poison can slowly spread to my whole body. Byron took off the sickle on his shoulder, holding the knife in his right hand handle, pointing to Saitama. Page 60. Suddenly, the burning pain on his face made Saitama instantly understand that he thought of the wound left by the scythe just slashed across his face. His left hand touched his left cheek, and there was only a small wound there. Sure enough, you need to be careful with their weapons when fighting Sand Ninja. His eyes fell on the 100-bladed scythe. Such a huge weapon was meant to injure the enemy, even if it was a slight wound. Saitama's face was a little dignified, and he pulled out the ninja sword inserted in the sand. Now, you can die. Little devil. With murderous intent in his voice, Beyblade's speed instantly increased and he ran towards Saitama. Ha! The sickle waved loudly in the air, whistling towards Saitama. Hiss! The arc continued to explode. Saitama's riding will eye locked onto the enemy, and the knife in his hand stabbed the enemy along the path of the sickle. The sickle slashed at Saitama's left shoulder. Half of the blade was embedded in the body and could not go further. Saitama's knife was inserted straight into Byron's left chest, and the blade flashed with lightning. Puff! How could it be? Byron couldn't believe it. Obviously this kid was poisoned by him, and his speed and reaction were still so fast. His eyes stayed on his chest. Byron felt the loss of body strength. The hand holding the sickle began to loosen, and the handle made him feel powerless to control. Bang! Enduring the dizziness in front of him, Saitama kicked the enemy in the abdomen and kicked him flying. Ho ho! Kneeling on the ground, the enemy's corpse lay not far away. Saitama exhaled heavily, with an exaggerated scythe on his shoulder. Saitama. Be careful. Moonlight Masano saw Saitama kneeling on the ground, and at the same time his eyes fell on Fujiwara who was approaching him. Saitama's expression turned hideous, the poison in his body made his brain start to lose his mind, and there were problems with the operation of Cha-Kra as early as the moment he fell to the ground. Saitama noticed the sneaky Fujiwara not far away, but he didn't have the strength to continue picking up the knife, so he could only kneel on the ground and watch the enemy slowly approach. Oh, boy! Fujiwara's waist was soaked with blood at this time, his face was pale, and he was only a little better than Saitama. With a little staggering footsteps, he held Kuwu in his right hand and inserted it into Saitama's back, while the other hand blocked Saitama's neck. Put! Saitama's dizzy brain was instantly lifted by the puncture injury on his back, and the chakra in his body temporarily overcame the influence of Sand Ninja's poison. In the end, I won. Fujiwara's mouth was against Saitama's, and the hot air slammed into his ear. His voice was also relatively low, showing a weakness. No, I won. Saitama endured the excruciating pain, and a strong current surged from his body, which was transmitted to Fujiwara, who was close to him. The thunder and lightning made a bird-like neigh, bursting out with great power. Fujiwara had no time to dodge, and he didn't think that Saitama would have the strength to fight back. Being hit by the lightning from Saitama, his body twitched, and his head rested weakly on Saitama's shoulder. With that, Saitama ended his own battle with a scythe on his shoulder and an enemy's head on his shoulder. Saitama. Moonlight Masano threw off his opponent, one-on-one, and the Sand Shinobi didn't get any benefit. Falling next to Saitama, he pushed Fujiwara away from his shoulders and pushed him to the sand. Moonlight Masano's sword instantly inserted into his chest and called out to Saitama. Yeah, Captain. Saitama raised his head with difficulty, showing an ugly smile. It's all right, hold on. Moonlight Masano was still inexplicably tight when he saw Saitama's tragic state. Looking back at the last joinin who had just been repelled by him, Yueguang Zhengye's expression froze, and his eyes became more sharp. Duolu looked at Yueguang Zhengye, whose fighting spirit was soaring, showing a hint of timidity. On his side, there is only one Jonin left, and he is not the opponent of Konoha Ninja. Looking at the other side, the two ninjas on his side have not been able to solve the other ninja of Konoha for a long time. Knowing that this battle is difficult, there is basically no chance of winning unless there are reinforcements. Murasaka, Moriyuki, retreat first. Turning back, he decided to retreat. He stepped on his foot, and under the watchful eye of Moonlight Zhengye, he left quickly. The other two ninjas also left Sagi and left. Although they left countless wounds on Sagi's body just now, Sagi was strong. His fighting spirit kept him from falling. As soon as Sharin left, Yueguang Zhengye did not chase after him, and he was also at a great cost. Saitama here still needs his protection. And Sagi held the knife, and the second the enemy disappeared in front of his eyes, he fell directly to the ground. He finally persevered and survived. Captain, help me pull out the things on my shoulders. Saitama's eyelids became heavier and heavier, and said weakly. Looking down at the sickle, Yueguang Zhengye grabbed the back of the knife with both hands and slowly pulled it out. Blood spurted instantly from the wound. Saitama frowned, his eyes narrowed, chakra turned into lightning and flashed across his shoulders, the wound was scorched, and the bleeding stopped. Superfluous expression, as if it was not his own body. There is also a kunai. Saitama knows that he can't hold on anymore. He has used chakra many times to make the poison in his body spread to the whole body more quickly. Now it is more difficult for him to move. Captain. Before he finished speaking, Saitama fell into a coma, fell forward, and was supported by Moonlight Masano. Saki, can you still move? Moonlight Masano placed Saitama face down on the sand and walked to Sagi's side. Teacher, it's all right. With a wry smile, Sagi didn't move his fingers. He almost lost his fighting power in the battle just now. Now he is covered in wounds, and the blood left a dark patch on the sand below him. Moonlight Masano looked back at Saitama, thought of San Shinobu who had just left, and knew that it was time to make a choice. Sand Ninja will make a comeback soon, with 2 seriously injured companions. He doesn't know if he can continue to leave Sand Ninja's sphere of influence, perhaps with a disciple who was still able to leave, and his eyes fell on his feet. This is his only disciple. Although his talent is not high, he has a persevering heart. Effort is the only talent that Sagi showed in his studies. You need to make a decision quickly. This is still the boundary of Sand Ninja. It is very dangerous. Chapter 24. No one in this world needs to pay for anyone. Teacher, what's wrong? Sagi was weak, his head resting on the sand. It's okay. Uegwang Masano touched Sagi's head. His expression was normal, but his eyes were a little deeper. He helped Sagi up so that half of his body could stand up and lean against Uegwang Masano's thigh. Night really came, and the twilight shrouded the desert, leaving a cold place for a few people. Saitama was poisoned and fell into a coma, and currently has no fighting power. Although Sagi is still awake, he has also lost his fighting power. Only Uegwang Zhenye was not seriously injured and maintained most of his strength. However, Uegwang Zhenye was only one person, but there were 3 people here. Can you still move? Sagi. He lifted Samu and let him take a few breaths. Uegwang Zhenye asked. It should be possible to go. Sagi grimaced. Then get ready, let's continue walking. Sand Shinobi should still have pursuers. Hurry up and get out of here, we'll be safe. Uegwang Masano took Sagi's arm and pulled him up. Yeah. Sagi naturally knew the urgency of the current situation, so he gritted his teeth and stood up with the strength of Moonlight Masano. Alright legends, that's it for today. Like, subscribe, and I'll meet you in the next audiobook.